Chapter 6:11. What do you want? Your disciple was unintentionally offended by my soul fragment. Since my soul fragment has been destroyed, we can be considered to be even. Your disciple should have told you about this, right? Hong Luan was secretly on guard. Yun Yazi said indifferently, when my disciples are wronged, they never tell me. Then, could it be that you heard it from someone? Hong Luan was puzzled. Yun Yazi shook his head. I didn't hear it from anyone. I just saw it with my own eyes. You were there. Hong Luan was extremely shocked. Why hadn't she sensed anything at all? If that's the case, why didn't you appear at that time? Yun Yazi said nothing. Hong Luan understood. Could it be that he was tempering his disciple? Although she was surprised by Yun Yazi's actions, the main point of her attention was, since you didn't make a move then, why are you here now? Yun Yazi slowly lowered his hands from behind his back. A cold light gradually appeared in his eyes. As a teacher, how can I really watch my disciple being bullied by others and remain indifferent? Back then, I didn't make a move because I was stimulating his potential. Now that I'm making a move, I'm helping him get rid of unnecessary trouble. If Su Yu had been present, he would have been shocked. This was the first time Yun Yazi had shown an expression of anger. He recalled how Su Yu had begged him for the first time, not even hesitating to kneel down and beg him. Even now, Yun Yazi still felt terrible when he thought of that miserable, desolate, helpless, and despairing expression. Su Yu, who would rather die than ask for his help, had been forced into such a situation. Who knew the pain and anger in Yun Yazi's heart when he rejected Su Yu's request? Such a strong disciple was bullied to such an extent. Sensing Yun Yazi's killing intent, Hong Luan suddenly became nervous. You want to fight here? This place was deep within the 18 blessed and heavenly land. With such a commotion, the other two old monsters would most likely rush over. Shouldn't you think it through first? Yun Yazi shook his head indifferently. So what if they come? If anyone dares to obstruct us, we'll just kill them all. After saying that, Yun Yazi's palm slapped through the air. It looked like a casual palm strike. However, Hong Luan seemed to feel some kind of terrifying power. She was so frightened that her whole body trembled. She did not even resist. She could only let out a hysterical scream. Divine power, you are. God. Bang. With a muffled sound, Hong Luan's voice came to an abrupt end. His body was still standing in the same place, not moving at all. However, his eyes quickly dimmed and turned into a deathly gray. His vitality was quickly extinguished. A mighty all-creation adept had been killed with a single palm strike. Yun Yazi withdrew his palm, took a step forward with his hands behind his back, and disappeared into the void. From start to finish, it had only been a breath of time. In the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, two extremely powerful fluctuations appeared at the same time in two mysterious places. Half a day later, two hazy balls of light descended. One in black and the other in white, each standing on one side of Hong Luan's corpse. Who did it? Is it the king of Jiuzhou? The voice of the white figure was extremely old, and there was a deep sense of shock in its tone. A crisp voice came from within the black light shadow. Perhaps, as an all-creation's old monster, I can't help myself in this battle for supremacy. I'm afraid that we're in trouble. The patrol envoy died in our territory. That king will probably make use of this to make things difficult for us. You and I should hurry back and make preparations. The black figure seemed to be in a hurry as he left. After standing there for a while, the white figure also left anxiously. No one knew what kind of changes the death of this all-creation old monster would bring to the 18 blessed and heavenly lands. In the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, Xia Jingyu hurriedly chased after Su Yu. The shocking evil energy made Xia Jingyu feel extremely uneasy. Her intuition told her that it wasn't Su Yu, but someone else who had taken over Su Yu's body. Xia Jingyu chased after him, following the evil energy that filled the sky. However, at that moment, the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion suddenly started shaking. A formless space power descended upon the bodies of all the outsiders, enveloping them and transporting them out of this place. No, wait. Xia Jingyu's face was filled with anxiety. As Su Yu's life and death were unknown, she couldn't leave just yet. But how could Xia Jingyu resist the rules of the fairy artifact? With a swoosh, Xia Jingyu was swept away. What she didn't notice was that the moment she was swept away, a transparent fragment had attached itself to her body. Similar scenes were happening all over the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. At the mysterious heavenly stage of the Zhenlong continent. With a swoosh, many geniuses appeared at the same time. Xia Jingyu, Gang Daliai, Qin Zhiyang, and Qin Yushan. The three geniuses of the ancient clan. The few lords of the Empire of Darkness. However, the few top-notch geniuses were nowhere to be seen. Su Yu, Long Wuxin, the Ghost King, and Bai Luo, who were ranked first in the competition, had disappeared without a trace and had yet to return. The female geniuses of the ancient clan and the Heavenly Law Alliance's Qin Xiener had also disappeared. Since they hadn't been transported back, they must have met with misfortune. They had lost more than half of their people, which meant that they had suffered heavy casualties. When Xia Jingyu's feet landed on the ground, she hurriedly surveyed her surroundings to look for that person. However, the person who had been engraved in the deepest part of her heart was nowhere to be seen. She was stunned, as she clearly understood what this meant. It meant that Su Yu had most likely met with misfortune. She couldn't accept this reality. After all, she had finally shared her feelings with Su Yu and found out that Su Yu had a place for her in his heart. But this was the end result. Did the Black Snow Devil King not return? Gang Daliai sighed as he surveyed his surroundings. Qin Zhiyang also noticed that he had disappeared and was disappointed. I didn't expect that Brother Black Snow would also die. He even saved my life. I have returned, but he has yet to return. The few great lords of darkness also sighed inwardly. He also saved us. All of them were indebted to Su Yu. However, even though they had returned, Su Yu had remained behind forever. Perhaps this is fate, Gang Daliai sighed. Opportunities have nothing to do with cultivation. Our abilities might not be on par with theirs, but our opportunities are better. It wasn't easy for us to return alive from the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, so we should adapt to life in the Zhenlong continent, Gang Daliai comforted the crowd. Hearing this, the crowd slowly nodded. The 2 months they had spent in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion felt like 2 long years. They had experienced many things that they couldn't even experience in the Zhenlong continent. Where are our teachers? And where are your elders? Gang Daliai looked around him and suddenly discovered that the mysterious heavenly stage was completely silent. There wasn't even a single person in sight. There was also a thick layer of dust on the ground, which was 3 inches thick. It seemed like no one had set foot on it for 2 years. What's going on? We only left for 2 months, so why does it feel like 2 years have passed? Also, where are the others? Why didn't they wait for us? The geniuses of the ancient clan noticed that something was amiss. Gang Daliai crossed his arms in front of his chest and said in a deep voice, "The flow of time in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion is 10 times slower than in the Zhenlong continent. 2.5 years have passed in the Zhenlong continent, but only 2 months have passed in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. That's not a big deal. The strange thing is, where did they go? It seems like they all left as soon as we entered. Did your elders tell you that they would leave early?" Gang Daliai looked around at them. In fact, even if their elders had left due to some matters, it was still strange that no one had come to welcome them after 2 months had passed. The 3 ancient clans shook their heads. They said that they would wait for us to leave. Gang Daliai had a strange look on his face. Elder Jiu had also said that he would wait for them for 2 years. However, even Elder Jiu had disappeared. This meant that something big must have happened in the Zhenlong continent that even Elder Jiu had to leave. What had happened in the Zhenlong continent during the 2 years that they had been away? Everyone, I will take my leave first. Gang Dalai had a bad premonition, so he left first. Qin Zhiyang and Qin Yushan also cupped their fists at the crowd and left hurriedly. The 3 ancient clans also had a bad premonition, so they all left. Lord Yu, should we go back and report to the king? Lord Qing Zhu asked respectfully. At this moment, he no longer had any thoughts about Xia Jingyu. The current Xia Jingyu was emitting a faintly discernible vital energy pressure, which was a sign that she had reached the half-fairy realm. However, as a half-god, he felt very restrained in front of her. All of you go back first. Take this sound-transmitting jade pendant with you. I still have important matters to attend to, so I can't go back for now. Xia Jingyu threw a jade pendant at him, along with the Empire of Darkness's inherited treasure, the Feather Needle of Darkness. How could Lord Qing Zhu not know what Xia Jingyu was planning to do? She was waiting for Su Yu. Although he was unwilling, he did not dare to stop her, so he left the mysterious heavenly stage with the other lords. Only Xia Jingyu was left in the spacious plaza. In the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Su Yu slowly turned around. The lingering pain in his body made him grimace. You are awake? A warm voice came from behind him. When he turned around, he saw that it was Yun Yazi, who was standing with his hands behind his back. Su Yu was startled. Greetings, master. Thank you for helping me. He reacted quickly. Before he had fainted, he had been aware of his own condition. He knew that his body was about to explode and die. Now that he was safe and sound, without even a single injury, it was undoubtedly Yun Yazi who had helped him. Your performance is unexpectedly good. Yun Yazi turned around, his kind face full of gratification and praise. Your potential has exceeded my expectations. Su Yu's potential was evident from the fact that he had managed to survive after fighting so many strong enemies. Su Yu said modestly, I was just lucky and picked up some treasures. I barely survived until now. Haha, no need to be humble. Take a look at your body's condition first. Yun Yazi laughed. Su Yu's heart shook. He immediately checked himself, and was surprised to find that the second vital energy crystal in his dantian had already been formed. He had already become a 2 crystals half-fairy. This must have been caused by the explosion of the enormous amount of energy in Su Yu's dantian. The pressure on the second spirit crystal had caused the spirit crystal to mutate and form a second vital energy crystal. An additional vital energy crystal meant that Su Yu's vital energy had doubled. Not only was the might of the treasures he could use stronger, but he could also last longer. He would not be in danger like before, when his vital energy and spiritual energy would be depleted at every turn. What else? Yun Yazi asked with a smile. What else? Su Yu checked himself again. There were no more changes to his body and cultivation. Chapter 6:12. He felt that his mind was unprecedentedly clear. His thoughts were nimble, and he felt much more relaxed. Some techniques that had been difficult to comprehend in the past were now easily comprehended. The heavens sun-gazing at air technique that he had been unable to break through for so long had finally entered stage 2. Congratulations! You can officially begin cultivating the heavens sun-gazing at air technique. Yun Yazi was pleased. I expected you to need 2 years to enter stage 2. I did not expect you to succeed in just half a year. The first stage of the heavens sun-gazing at air technique, the soul-changing realm, was the basic level. Only after mastering it would one be considered to have officially entered the heavens sun-gazing at air technique. Moreover, only after mastering the first stage would the contents of the second stage appear. Su Yu immediately took out the bronze plate. As expected, following the first stage, the contents of the second stage appeared. The Imperial Soul Realm. The mythical realm is divided into 4 levels. Entry, lower class, upper class, and top class. At the entry level, one can control a soul that is one level higher than oneself. At the lower class level, one can control two souls that are one level higher than oneself. At the upper class level, one can control four souls that are one level higher than oneself. At the top class level, one can control 8 souls that are one level higher than oneself and form the 8 souls demon subduing formation. Its power depends on the strength of the souls being controlled. Just looking at the first stage, Suyu was shocked beyond words. What did it mean to be one level higher? It meant that if Suyu could break through to the fairy realm one day, he could directly control a divine master. With each stage of cultivation, the number of souls he could control would increase exponentially. In fact, at stage 4, he could control 8 souls at the same time. Imagine Suyu bringing along 8 divine masters. Although Jojo was vast, where could he not go? Suyu carefully read through the requirements with excitement. There are 2 requirements to cultivate to stage 2. First, the person being controlled must not have any sense of resistance. Second, the user must have an extremely strong soul. The minimum requirement is 3 times that of someone of the same level. The first requirement was not unexpected to Suyu. The second requirement made Suyu feel relieved. No wonder the second stage was built on the foundation of the first stage. After mastering the first stage, the soul would be 3 times that of someone of the same level. From now on, I'll temporarily stop cultivating and start officially guiding you in the cultivation of the heaven's sun gazing at air. As long as you cultivate it to perfection, you'll basically be invincible among those of the same realm. Yun Yazi was filled with anticipation. When Suyu heard what was said, he was delighted. Yun Yazi had not given him much pointers. If he were to give him pointers personally, his stage 2 legendary level would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. However, Master, with my current abilities, I can even fight against fairies with the help of many treasures. So, wouldn't this technique be useless? After Suyu had calmed down from his excitement, he thought about it carefully and suddenly felt that this was the case. Yun Yazi chuckled. How many fairies have you fought fairly with? How many have you defeated? Suyu sank into deep thought. The only true fairy realm martial artists that he had come into contact with were Xinggu, Bai Yijian, and Shangguan Qing'er. Other than them, there was no one else. Lu Chui Bai Zhe, who had drunk the blood wine, the soul old man, the ghost king, the demon, Zi Qianshou, Gu Taishu, and the others were either in soul bodies or only had physical bodies of the fairy realm. Moreover, they were all being suppressed by the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. The only fairy realm martial artists that Suyu had come into contact with were Xinggu and Bai Yijian. Xinggu was afraid of being transported, so she had not used her fairy realm powers before she was subdued by Suyu. Bai Yijian and Shangguan Qing'er had died unexpectedly before they could even fight. Speaking of which, Suyu might not even have defeated a true fairy realm martial artist. Thinking of this, Suyu's heart trembled. He had continuously relied on powerful treasures to severely injure his enemies. Unknowingly, he had become careless and started to look down on fairy realm martial artists. It seems like you have thought it through. You don't need my advice, Yun Yazi said. This place has a strong suppression on abilities. The so-called fairy realm martial artists that you have met might not even be able to use their full abilities. If this was the outside world, you would most likely be the one at a disadvantage. Now, your prototype fairy artifact is in the process of refining the Thunder Spirit. The fusion of the origin will kill 1,000 enemies, but you will also suffer. You have continuously used the Great Sun Punishment fairy picture, so the disastrous fire inside is not as strong as before. If you were to meet a grade 4 fairy realm martial artist, how would you deal with him? Hearing this, Suyu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. If that was really the case, the situation would be extremely dangerous. The 3 treasures that were his trump cards all had certain flaws, especially the Great Sun Punishment fairy picture. The first time he had used it to deal with a demon, he had released half of the disastrous fire. The second time he had used it to deal with Hong Luan's crystal world, he had released a small portion. Now, he had released another small portion to deal with Gu Taishu. Now, the remaining disastrous fire was pitifully small. It might be effective against early-stage fairy realm martial artists, but against higher levels, it would be very difficult. Thank you for your teachings, Master. Su Yu stopped underestimating him. Yun Yazi smiled. This is what makes me feel most at ease about you. You are a cautious person. I need to rest for a while. If you have any questions, you can ask them now. He had traveled hundreds of millions of miles to destroy all creation realm martial artists, so he needed to rest for a while. Master, you mentioned grade 4 fairy realm just now. What level is that? Why have I only heard of early, middle, and late stages of fairy realm martial artists? Su Yu asked curiously. Yun Yazi said, It's simple. Even among early-stage fairies there are different levels. Grade 1 is the lowest, Grade 2 is slightly higher, Grade 3 is the best early-stage fairy realm martial artist, and so on. Middle-stage fairies are divided into Grade 4, Grade 5, and Grade 6, while late-stage fairies are divided into Grade 7, Grade 8, and Grade 9. Hearing this, Su Yu suddenly understood. Indeed, although they were both early-stage fairies, Bai Yijin was stronger than Xing Guo. He seemed to be a Grade 3 peak early-stage fairy realm martial artist, while Xing Guo was probably just a Grade 1 low-stage fairy realm martial artist. Between each grade there is a huge gap in power. If the difference in magical treasures and cultivation techniques is not huge, the top grade level will usually crush the bottom grade level. Someone like Su Yu, who was able to skip a few grades, was definitely an anomaly among anomalies. Master, I once fought with a soul body. He released something called the original soul ice flame, which froze the souls of living creatures. Master, is this a cultivation technique? Why does a soul have an ice attribute? When he had fought with the soul old man, he had released such a troublesome ice flame, and Su Yu had almost been hit. It is still too early for you to think about this. You should at least wait until your soul reaches the Divine Master level before you can cultivate the original soul. Yun Yazi said, Humans have personalities, and there are millions of people with millions of different personalities. Souls also have soul lattices, and they all have different attribute. The ice attribute is the soul lattice of your enemy's soul. Different people have different soul lattices. There is no need to be envious. When your soul is strong enough to reach the Divine Master level, the soul lattice will appear on its own. Hearing this, Su Yu understood. There were such benefits after breaking through to the Divine Master level? Do you have any more questions? Yun Yazi asked. Su Yu shook his head. Master, please rest. I have some matters to attend to. Yun Yazi nodded. All right. As long as you stay within the light barrier that I left behind, you will not be transported out for the time being. You can settle your matters with ease. Su Yu smiled. Actually, with the mysterious heavenly map, even without the light barrier, he would not be transported out. With a thought, Su Yu's soul entered the 9-jade spiritual pearl. Aoyue, what did you want to say just now? Su Yu teleported to the front of the thatched hut and asked. Wu Aoyue lowered her head and silently took out the thunder herb armor. It has been successfully crafted. She offered it to Su Yu with both hands. Wu Aoyue laughed coldly in her heart. Your hand. Sigh, you look haggard. Su Yu did not take it. Instead, he first observed Wu Aoyue's swollen fingers, her haggard face, and her bloodshot eyes. Last time, when I was in a life-and-death situation, I left in a hurry. I did not notice your abnormality. I was careless. Su Yu sighed apologetically. Take the Thunder Herb armor first. I still have some time before I break through to the fairy realm. You can use it first. Hearing this, Wu Aoyue was stunned. Her ears turned numb and she felt ashamed. He had been in danger the last time. No wonder he had left in such a hurry. She had even misunderstood that Su Yu was treating her coldly. Thinking about this, she suddenly felt that she had become much narrower. In the beginning, no matter how cold Su Yu had treated her, she would not have had any ill intentions. But now, she was sad because of Su Yu's momentary indifference. She could not help but mutter to herself, "What's wrong with me? Is there a need to care about his attitude towards me? Rest well. If you need anything, just tell me." After saying this, Su Yu walked over to the underworld pearl. Without another word, Su Yu began to purify it with the Milky Way star sand, extracting the blood essence of the master of the ghost world. Only when he was mentally exhausted did Su Yu stop. Just like last time, he extracted 1% of the blood essence each time. That was his limit. If I can refine it completely, I wonder how powerful it will be. Su Yu's eyes were filled with anticipation as he turned to leave. Wu Aoyue paused, hesitating. "Mister, don't you want to take a look at Xingguo? She has already been punished." "Xingguo?" Su Yu glanced at the corner of the valley. Xingguo was still being burned by the soul flame. From her hateful gaze, it was obvious that she had not repented. "Let her continue to stay here," Su Yu said expressionlessly. His soul dissipated, and Su Yu returned to his body. Extracting the underworld pearl had taken half a day. It is time to return to the Zhenlong continent. Su Yu stood up and waved his hand to open the light screen. He also kept the mysterious heavenly map. The space energy of the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion descended, enveloping Su Yu and teleporting him away. "I have been away for 2 months. I wonder how Palace Master Ling is. I have not returned for a long time. How is the Inu area? Has the slumbering and Euro awakened? Has her appearance recovered? Is there anyone paying respects to Li Guang's grave? Is the Duke well? Was Jiang Xueqing still in that Taoist temple, her face bare? Is the Master of the Phoenix Cabinet rebuilding the Phoenix Cabinet? Are Zi Donglai and Zi Yunxiang well in the Heavenly Law Alliance?" 2 months had passed, but Su Yu felt like 2 years had passed. Filled with anticipation, Su Yu entered the transportation portal. A silver light sent them from the boundless sky to the mysterious heavenly stage below. It was difficult for a person to open their eyes during the transportation. Su Yu had the soul eyes, so he was not affected. Looking up, he saw a majestic pavilion floating in the starry sky. The majestic starry sky and the beautiful mysterious heavenly divine pavilion were magnificent. As the pavilion got further away, Su Yu gradually felt himself sinking faster. Retracting his gaze, Su Yu looked down at the Zhenlong continent. At this height, he might be able to see the entire Zhenlong continent. Chapter 6:13. What appeared in Su Yu's vision was not the continent he had imagined, but a palm print. An unimaginably huge palm print. It was a blue star, shrouded in dense water vapor and surrounded by clouds. Less than 10% of it was a continent. However, the shape of the continent was not like the Earth of his previous life. Instead, it was a palm print that had been created by someone. The palm was the main trunk of the continent, and the center of the palm was where the Empire of Darkness headquarters was located. The 4 sides of the palm were the north, south, east, and west continents. The Wulong snowfield, which had existed since ancient times, spanned across the northern continent, the 100 Territories Alliance, the Phoenix Cabinet, and the Snow Listening Tower, was actually a palm print. Most of the 4 fingers were covered by the water of the sea, and only a small portion was exposed. And the parts that were exposed were bits and pieces, countless small islands. Xunyue Island was the smallest island at the top of the index finger. This shocking scene caused Su Yu to sink into deep shock. The Zhenlong continent, where he was actually a giant palm print. Perhaps the Zhenlong continent had not been like this in the past, but had been smashed into this state by some mysterious giant palm. Su Yu had seen many similar palm prints along the way on Xunyue Island. Countless prosperous and distinct places had been destroyed by the palm print. Could the Zhenlong continent have also been destroyed by the palm print? Who was it? Who had such magical powers? The answer was obvious. Only an all-creation old monster could be so terrifying. With deep shock and endless questions, Su Yu landed on the mysterious heavenly stage under the guidance of the silver light pillar. Every inch of dust was moving up and down. Su Yu waved his sleeves, immediately sensing that something was wrong. It was not strange that there was no one around. He had returned late, so it was normal for them to leave first. But why was the ground covered in dust for 2.5 years? It had only been 2.5 months since he had left. Is it because of the difference in the flow of time? Su Yu was proficient in the power of time, so he quickly understood this abnormal phenomenon. I did not expect the difference in the flow of time between us to be more than 10 times. Su Yu muttered. Does this mean that I have already left the Zhenlong continent for 2.5 years? Su Yu suddenly felt as if he had been in a dream. It was as if a woodcutter had entered a mountain to watch immortals play chess. When the game ended, 100 years had passed in the world. The vital energy I left for Palace Master Ling back then could only last him for half a year. Now that 2 years have passed, doesn't that mean? Su Yu's heart tightened as he came back to his senses. With a tap of his toes, Su Yu passed through the portal and arrived in the outside world. This place was an empty mountain peak. Looking down from above, one could see all the mountains and rivers as far as the eyes could see. Su Yu didn't have the time to admire it. He was just about to soar into the sky when a jade pendant beeped softly. Slightly taken aback, Zhang Xian lowered his head and saw a jade pendant clamped between the stone peaks of the mountain. If a human's aura approached, the jade pendant would sense it and emit a beeping sound. He grabbed it and crushed it. A mist gushed out from the jade pendant, and a picturesque and beautiful fairy rose from the mist. Xia Jingyu was left behind by her? Su Yu was surprised. Regardless of whether you are Su Yu or not, if you discover the message I left behind, please find a place to hide immediately and do not show yourself. Zhenlong continent. It has fallen. His voice stopped abruptly and was covered by a few wild laughter. Quick! Catch that woman! How dare she come back? Ha ha ha, we have a good show tonight. Crack! As the jade pendant was crushed, Su Yu's heart tightened. Someone is chasing after Xia Jingyu. What happened? Who in the Zhenlong continent would dare to openly harm the Lord of Darkness? What happened to the Zhenlong continent? What happened? How is Xia Jingyu now? Has she been caught? Su Yu, who had just returned, was instantly engulfed by endless worries. Suddenly, the Ghost King's warning appeared in Su Yu's mind. He had asked him to quickly leave the Zhenlong continent before anything unexpected happened. Could it be that the Ghost King knew that the Zhenlong continent was about to face a great crisis? Su Yu became even more nervous as he soared into the sky and chased after Xia Jingyu in the jade pendant. I hope that I can make it in time. Su Yu's expression became slightly cold. With Su Yu's current cultivation, he could travel 1,000,000 miles in just a few breaths' time. He had already chased after her for several hours and crossed 1,000,000 miles. He knew that such a blind search was like looking for a needle in a haystack. While they were escaping, Xia Jingyu could change direction at any time. But, apart from this, Su Yu had no other choice. Clang! Suddenly, the sound of fighting could be heard in the distance, along with a woman's delicate shout. It sounded vaguely familiar, but it was very vague and unclear. Could it be Xia Jingyu? Without hesitation, Su Yu immediately flew over. Ha! There are still some decent people in this isolated, barbaric land of the Zhenlong continent. 2 men in white armor, one in front and one behind, had intercepted a team of 5 people. Among the team, there were 2 people that Su Yu was familiar with. One of them was Gang Dalei, who had just returned from the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion 5 days ago. The other was the only woman in the team, Zi Yunxiang. After not seeing her for 2 years, Ziyunxiang's strength had actually broken through from the dragon realm to the heaven master level. Su Yu found it hard to believe that he had advanced so quickly. The other three people's cultivations were similar to Ziyunxiang's. They were all at the heaven master level. Under Gang Daliai's lead, they seemed to be carrying out some mission. Unexpectedly, their tracks were exposed, and they were surrounded and intercepted by two crystals half-fairy realm experts. Among them, only Gang Daliai was a two crystals half-fairy, and he had just broken through not long ago. Ziyunxiang and the other three were only at the early stage of half-gods. They did not even have the strength of a half-fairy, so how could they be a match for them? Are you referring to their talents? The other man in white armor had an evil smile on his face as he stared at Ziyunxiang. Of course it's their looks. Although they are not as good as the one we chased last time, they are still not bad. She managed to escape from that woman, so we cannot miss this one. We must enjoy ourselves tonight, so that our patrol of this place will not be in vain. The man in armor who had spoken first laughed. All right, let's deal with the leader first. He is a two crystals half-fairy, and he should be considered one of the strongest youths in the Zhenlong continent. It's a pity that he ran into us. The two armored youths looked at each other and attacked at the same time. Gang Daliai's face was cold, and he clenched his teeth in hatred. You bastards! You burn, kill, and plunder! You are worse than beasts. Ziyunxiang, quickly escape with them. I will hold them off for now. Gang Daliai tore off his robe, revealing his ferocious flood dragon head. This horrifying scene frightened the armored youths, and they all stopped in their tracks. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ziyunxiang gritted her teeth and led everyone to escape from the side. Follow me. After escaping for 3 miles, everyone should split up and run. Their target is me. She was very decisive, as she knew that her power was too low to help Gang Daliai. Moreover, Gang Daliai would lose his chance to escape because of her. She also knew that Gang Daliai's chances of escaping were close to 0. How could a newly advanced two crystals half-fairy escape from two half-fairies? Bang! As if to verify her guess, a violent vibration came from behind her, along with Gang Daliai's painful groans and heavy coughs. You scared me to death. What kind of freak is this? The two armored youths worked together to slap Gang Daliai into the ground, leaving behind a large crater. Gang Daliai coughed up blood, his eyes filled with hatred. Yes, he is weaker than I expected. You go and capture that woman and kill the rest. Leave this freak to me, one of the armored youths said confidently. Okay, I guarantee that I won't fail again. Tonight I will get the beauty. Let's have some fun. The other armored youth's gaze fell on Ziyunxiang, who was running away. Her slender figure was as beautiful as a butterfly. Although she was panicking, she still had a natural and simple aura. Although such a woman wasn't extremely beautiful, she was still a rare beauty. Since he had encountered her, how could he let her go? Swoosh! The armored youth turned into a gust of wind and chased after her at lightning speed. There was a huge disparity between their cultivations, so he caught up in the blink of an eye. Ziyunxiang's face was filled with shame and anger, and she felt hopeless. Do I have to suffer such humiliation even before I die? However, just as the armored young man excitedly stretched out his hand, a pink mist suddenly swirled in the space in front of him, and a yawning little Qilin swayed as it walked out of the pink mist. Its body was covered with pink scales, and it had a small horn that had just protruded. It looked extremely charming and cute. At this moment it seemed like it had just woken up, and its beautiful purple gem-like eyes stared blankly at the human face in front of it. The armored youth was startled. Where did this demonic beast come from? Before he could react, his vision darkened, and the dazed little Qilin instinctively swung its hoof at him and stepped on his face. A miserable shriek echoed. He had been charging forward at full speed, yet he was suddenly swung by the little Qilin's hoof. How powerful was the impact! He immediately spouted out a mouthful of blood along with his 2 front teeth. His body was also sent rolling on the ground like a cannonball. As for the little Kylan, when it swung its hoof, it directly turned illusory, and the recoil didn't affect its body at all. The little Kylan yawned lazily, as if it was in a dream. It looked around and discovered Ziyunxiang, then ran into her bosom. Ziyunxiang subconsciously stretched out her hand and held it. The little Kylan immediately yawned and lay in her bosom. Ziyunxiang was dumbfounded, and she couldn't understand what had just happened. Where did this mysterious little beast come from? How could it be so powerful that it could send a 2 crystals half-fairy realm expert flying with just a hoof? Where did this little beast come from? The armored youth was infuriated, and he shouted without even turning his head around, "Boss, you still haven't dealt with that trash? There is a troublesome little beast here, so hurry over and help me." Suddenly, a calm voice transmitted from behind him. "No problem, I've already brought him over for you." The armored youth was startled, and his expression changed drastically. He didn't even notice that someone was behind him. The armored youth rolled forward without giving it a second thought, and only after putting some distance between them did he look behind him. What he saw almost scared him out of his wits. He saw a handsome youth with a head full of strange long hair standing at the place where he had just been standing. He was carrying a person in each of his hands. Chapter 6:14. You. Ziyunxiang's body trembled as she let go of the little Kylan. She covered her mouth and face as she murmured in a trembling voice. Her watery eyes were filled with surprise and disbelief. Ever since Yu had been captured by Lord Shen Ying from the Phoenix Cabinet, he had disappeared from the continent. It was rumored that he had died in the Battle of the Fairy Realm. For 2 whole years there had been no news of him. Now that he had suddenly appeared in front of her, Ziyunxiang cried tears of joy. Patter! The little Kylan fell to the ground, crying out pitifully. It rubbed its butt with its hooves, then stood up with a pout. It then waved its hooves at Ziyunxiang. The fall woke it up, and it jumped back onto Su Yu's shoulder, still glaring at Ziyunxiang angrily. "Ah, is this your spiritual pet? I'm sorry." Ziyunxiang was shocked by the little beast's intelligence, and her face turned red. The little Kylan snorted and waved its hooves generously, as if to say that it was not a big deal, and that it did not care. This action caused Ziyunxiang to giggle. This little beast was exceptionally peculiar. While they were talking, the armored youth, who had not been subdued, turned around and took out a long sword. He pressed it against Ziyunxiang's neck, trying to subdue her and take her as a hostage. Ziyunxiang was shocked. She wanted to run away, but how could she outrun a 2 crystals half-fairy? "Did I say you could move?" A cold snort came from behind the armored youth. A golden light flashed past the 2 crystals half-fairy's arm, casually making a circle around it. Patter! The armored youth's arm fell to the ground. This sword had directly cut off his arm with sword energy. The armored youth let out a blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered. "Noisy! If you scream again, I will cut off your tongue." Su Yu frowned. Suddenly, the armored youth's screams stopped. He clutched his arm, which was bleeding profusely. He was in so much pain that his face turned pale. "I will ask, and you will answer. What happened to the woman you chased 2 days ago? Was she injured?" Su Yu had already heard from them that Xia Jingyu had successfully escaped. The 2 of them looked at each other, hesitating. Whoever answers later will die. Su Yu's killing intent was extremely strong. After going through the training in the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion, Su Yu's desire to kill had unknowingly increased. It was unknown whether it was due to the influence of evil energy, or because he had killed too many people, but he gradually viewed human lives as worthless. Hearing this, the 2 armored youths trembled. "Wait, we'll speak." She escaped. "Her injuries are a little, but not serious," the 2 armored youths said in unison. Ziyunxiang was stunned. "Su Yu, are you asking about Lord Yu of the Empire of Darkness? How do you know about her? Where is she? Su Yu asked anxiously. Zi Yunxiang stared coldly at the two of them. They're lying to you. Lord Yu's injuries were severe and she was still unconscious. The undead Phoenix Master was still trying to think of a way to save her. She had originally followed us back to the Heavenly Law Alliance, but for some unknown reason, she changed her mind at the last minute and went to a dangerous region alone. When we found her, she was already on her last breath. The two armored young men's faces instantly turned pale when they heard this. Unconscious. Su Yu's voice was so cold that even he felt a chill when he heard it. As his gaze swept past the two of them, Su Yu's killing intent exploded. A formless white flame flashed past. The souls of the two burned and they could fly. They did not even have the chance to cry out in pain. Thump. Tossing aside the two corpses, Su Yu said anxiously, "Let's go. Bring me to her quickly." Xia Jingyu had returned to inform him. Even though she knew it was dangerous, she had rushed back to leave a message for Su Yu. Su Yu's heart was bleeding. He felt that he owed Xia Jingyu, and he would never be able to repay her in this lifetime. A woman's intuition told Zi Yunxiang that Su Yu and Lord Yu had a relationship that surpassed friendship. This caused Zi Yunxiang to feel slightly uncomfortable. Her chest felt heavy. All right. Along the way, Gang Dalei recuperated and felt much better. Seeing Su Yu frown, he comforted him. Su Yu, do not worry. The master of the Phoenix Cabinet is the continent's top alchemy master. She has a unique understanding of healing. Lord Yu will be fine. Su Yu's heart was filled with Xia Jingyu's safety. He nodded. Yes, I hope so. Dalei, how is Ling Xiaotian now? I have been gone for 2 years. Without vital energy to sustain him, Su Yu had another unresolved worry in his heart. Hearing this, Gang Dalei's expression turned serious. Have we met before? How do you know my name? Also, what is your relationship with Ling Xiaotian? How did you know that Ling Xiaotian was with us? He was brought here by the Black Snow Devil King. Wait. Gang Dalei and Zi Yunxiang's bodies turned stiff at the same time, looking at Su Yu in shock. After Su Yu disappeared, the infamous Black Snow Devil King had appeared out of nowhere. After that, the Black Snow Devil King had entered the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion for over 2 years. Su Yu had also disappeared, cultivating a mysterious ability. Could it be that the Black Snow Devil King was actually Su Yu? Yes, it was me. Back then, Su Yu's identity was wanted. To make things easier, I changed my appearance and roamed the world as the Black Snow Devil King. I did not tell you the truth. Please forgive me, Su Yu said apologetically. Especially Zi Yunxiang. From her expression, his disappearance had affected her greatly. Gang Dalei was dumbfounded. My brother Black Snow is the #1 genius of the North Continent, Inu? How unexpected! The people of the Zhenlong continent would never have imagined that Su Yu did not disappear. Instead, he roamed the world with the identity of the Black Snow Devil King. Zi Yunxiang's face was full of resentment. Back then, when she had found out that Su Yu had died in the battle between the fairies, she had fainted on the spot. For the next few months, she had not been able to walk out of it. What made her even more resentful was that the Black Snow Devil King had personally gone to the Heavenly Law Alliance, but had not looked for her. Feeling the different emotions of the two, Su Yu was speechless. He had been too helpless in the past. Now that his abilities had improved greatly, there were very few people in the Zhenlong continent who could threaten him. There was no need to worry about implicating old friends. This meant that Su Yu would no longer hide his identity. Wait, when the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion ended, you did not come out. We all thought that you had. Gang Dalei said in surprise. Su Yu calmly said, it was just an accident. I stayed for half a day. It's nothing. Gang Dalei was skeptical. Take this opportunity to explain to me what happened in the Zhenlong continent. What is going on with those two people just now? When did two unfamiliar two crystals half-fairies appear in the Zhenlong continent? What is going on with the fall of the Zhenlong continent? Hearing this, the joy of reuniting with Su Yu disappeared in an instant. Instead, they furrowed their brows. Su Yu, the Zhenlong continent is finished. Gang Dalai hesitated for a long time, then said in a low voice. Zi Yunxiang's eyes were full of sorrow. In the 2.5 years that you were gone, many things happened in the Zhenlong continent. The current Zhenlong continent is no longer the same as before. You can carefully feel the air. The air? When Su Yu had just returned to the Zhenlong continent, he had been troubled by Xia Jingyu's comforting words. As such, he had not carefully felt the difference. Now that he had carefully felt it, he was slightly startled. What is going on? The spiritual energy in the air of the Zhenlong continent seems to have become denser. Gang Dalai said in a deep voice, "It is not just denser. It is 10 times denser." Back then, my reaction was the same as yours. I did not notice the change in the spiritual energy because we were used to the dense spiritual energy in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Hence, when the spiritual energy of the Zhenlong continent became so dense, I did not notice it. Zi Yunxiang nodded. Yes. It is precisely because of the 10 times denser spiritual energy that the geniuses of the Zhenlong continent have the opportunity to cultivate like never before. I was able to become a heaven master in a short 2 years because of this. Everything began 2 years ago when the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds changed. The dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds changed? Su Yu's heart skipped a beat. The most mysterious place in the Zhenlong continent was probably the dragon abyss of the 9 underworld. Back then, a terrifying dragon tail had appeared from within the pool. The seal of the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds had been broken, and Xing Gu had been able to escape. That black pool of water was a mysterious place that Su Yu still could not let go of. Not long after the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion opened, the seal of the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds was suddenly opened. At that time, Elder Jiu and the rest were at the mysterious heavenly stage and could not return in time. The fighters of the Heavenly Law Alliance entered the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds to investigate the situation. However, the first batch of experts that entered the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds all died. Only the leader of the group, Fu Tsangshan, came out alive. He said that a large number of unknown experts appeared in the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds, and that there was no one in Sin City. Everyone disappeared without a trace. Then, they were attacked by a large number of unfamiliar half-immortals. They were almost completely annihilated. Fu Tsangshan managed to escape with his group and escape from the dragon abyss of the 9 underworld. Zi Yunxiang paused, and Gang Dalai continued. This matter is not over yet. After my master received news of the change in the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds, he immediately rushed back to seal it again. However, 3 fighters of the fairy realm suddenly appeared among them. All of them were grade 5 fairies. Master was outnumbered and eventually retreated in defeat. He only had time to snatch away some valuables, which included Ling Xiaotian and the dragon coffin. Then, he retreated with the many senior experts who encircled him, all the way to the mainland. Hearing this, Su Yu felt slightly relieved. From then on, the otherworldly fighters continued to appear from the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds in large numbers. The martial artists of the Zhenlong continent organized many counterattacks in an attempt to force them back. However, the number of their fairy realm fighters kept increasing. The last time the Zhenlong continent's martial artists attacked, they already had more than 30 fairy realm fighters. The Zhenlong continent's martial artists suffered heavy casualties. The Heavenly Law Alliance's Master Long Juexin was severely injured during the battle and has been recuperating ever since. Countless fighters from all sides died. This was the most tragic defeat the Zhenlong continent had ever suffered. It was also the last time we could organize our forces to fight against them. Half a year later, the Zhenlong continent's calamity appeared. They gathered countless experts and finally set foot on the Zhenlong continent. Under the leadership of a few saint masters, the otherworldly fighters marched straight in and swept across the northern continent. The Snow Listening Tower, the Phoenix Cabinet, and the 100 Territories Alliance were all conquered in one night. Then, it was the Eastern Continent, the Southern Continent, and the Western Continent. All the great factions were conquered in one night. Chapter 6:15. Hearing this, Su Yu was shocked. In just 2.5 years, the Zhenlong continent had undergone such a drastic change? The continent had been completely occupied by the other world. Does that mean that the northern continent's empire of darkness has also been occupied? Su Yu was worried about his Inu area. Zi Yunxiang continued, nodding. Yes, it has been occupied. Other than a few vigilant people who managed to escape in advance, the majority of the people are still locked down. That change happened too quickly. In just one night, the entire continent was occupied. Did they do anything to the people in the occupied areas? Su Yu's heart tightened. Zi Yunxiang's expression turned cold. Massacres did not happen. However, from the actions of those two people just now, it was clear that they treated the people of the Zhenlong continent like livestock. They burned, killed, and looted. Even though the lives of the people in the occupied areas were not in great danger, they could not avoid humiliation. Who knows how many people were robbed and how many wives and daughters were raped by them? Su Yu's eyes shot out shards of cold light. He did not know where those people had come from, but their talents and abilities were abnormally strong. They had an indescribable sense of superiority toward the people of the Zhenlong continent. In the Zhenlong continent, they could indulge in the darkness in their hearts and do evil things. Perhaps, as Zi Yunxiang had said, many people's families had been destroyed. Those who manage to escape either live in the wilderness, hide in the ocean, or are taken in by the Heavenly Law Alliance. Other than that, any other place in the Zhenlong continent has become a living hell. Zi Yunxiang clenched her fist. This disaster had come too suddenly, and the impact was too great. The Zhenlong continent had really fallen. The battleships of the Heavenly Law Alliance are now hiding everywhere. The 5 of us are one of the small patrolling teams. The battleships are now resting, and the surroundings need to be guarded. We did not expect to meet 2 half-fairies not long after we set off. We must quickly go back and inform them. This is not a place to stay for long, Gang Dalei said. Su Yu nodded, his gaze moving between Zi Yunxiang and Gang Dalei. He then said profoundly, the geniuses taken in by the Heavenly Law Alliance should not be just the 2 of you, right? What he meant was why the 2 of them were sent to patrol. If it had been someone else patrolling, Su Yu would not have been surprised. But who were these 2 people? One was one of the 3 fairies of the Zhenlong continent, the last disciple of Elder Jiu. The other was the daughter of one of the Heavenly Law Alliance's elders, Zi Donglai. Their statuses were much higher than those of ordinary geniuses. There was no reason for them to carry out such a dangerous mission without any protection. Among the clues, Su Yu found something unusual. Hearing this, both of their faces turned ugly. Gang Dalei laughed bitterly. Master and I were both taken in by the Heavenly Law Alliance. How can we not lower our heads when we are living under the roof? Wait, it's fine that Gang Dalei was taken in, but what kind of person is Elder Jiu? 4 days ago, my master's tribulation came as scheduled. Even though he brought back the Thunder Herb, for some reason, the tribulation lightning this time was much scarier than expected. My master was injured by the tribulation lightning, and we don't even know if he's dead or alive. He's also being taken care of by the undead Phoenix Master. What's worse is that he failed the tribulation this time. The second tribulation lightning will descend soon. My unconscious master will face the second tribulation lightning. What do you think will happen to him? Apart from turning into ashes, Elder Jiu's fate was as clear as day. Since Elder Jiu was about to die, It was understandable that his disciple would receive such treatment. However, the person who had arranged for this mission was too cruel. Elder Gyo was still alive, yet he had tortured his disciple like this. Was Elder Gyo going to die with regrets? What about you? Was Housemaster Z also injured? Su Yu asked. Zi Yunxiang sighed softly. No. How could my father be compared to Elder Gyo? It's just that there was a change in the Heavenly Law Alliance. My father was ostracized and stripped of his position as an elder. Fu Tsangshan's grandson was recently taken in by the Heavenly Law Alliance. He took a fancy to me and wanted to take me as his concubine. I refused, so I was sent out to carry out a dangerous mission. Such a thing could happen? Who is Fu Tsangshan? Su Yu had heard of this person's name from their conversation. The first person to enter the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds to investigate the situation was Fu Tsangshan. You should have heard of his name, Zi Yunxiang said. The Northern Pole Sword Saint, Zhao Wuji, the Undead Phoenix Master, Qiu Ningshui, and the Snow-Gazing Taoist, Fu Tsangshan. The 3 of them are elders of the Heavenly Law Alliance from the Northern Continent. Hearing this, Su Yu suddenly understood. He had heard of these 3 people's names in the past. The Northern Pole Sword Saint came from the 100 Territories Alliance, the Undead Phoenix Master, Qiu Ningshui, came from the Phoenix Cabinet, and the Snow-Gazing Taoist, Fu Tsangshan, came from the Snow Listening Tower. In fact, the current Snow Listening Tower's master had been killed by Su Yu. The Snow Listening Tower really has a bunch of scoundrels, using such a method to force a marriage. Humph! Su Yu snorted disdainfully. Fu Tsangshan's cultivation has improved greatly, and he is now a 3 crystals peak half-fairy. He can go through his tribulation at any time, and his power has already surpassed Alliance Master Long's. Moreover, Alliance Master Long was severely injured in the battle at the Dragon Abyss of the 9 underworlds, and he relied on the Undead Phoenix Master to save his life. Thus, his power has increased day by day. My father was removed from his position as an elder in order to make room for Fu Tsangshan's trusted aid. This meant that there was a possibility that the Heavenly Law Alliance would change hand. He hadn't returned for 2.5 years, yet the situation had already become so complicated. Don't worry, I understand, and I won't cause any trouble, Su Yu said frankly. He had come to the Heavenly Law Alliance for Xia Jingyu and Ling Xiaotian, and if it wasn't necessary, he naturally wouldn't cause any trouble. The group of people chatted as they quickly flew toward the Heavenly Law Alliance's warship. However, they didn't know that, at the place where the 2 armored youths had fallen, there was a middle-aged man with a cold face. His gaze was like a torch as he stared coldly at the direction in which Su Yu and the others had left. Humph! I have finally found you. As he spoke, the spiritual pressure of a fairy realm expert slowly spread out. In the Heavenly Law Alliance. When Su Yu saw the Heavenly Law Alliance's enormous warship once again, he wasn't surprised anymore. After all, after witnessing the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion's majestic aura, the Heavenly Law Alliance's warship was somewhat lacking. Moreover, with Su Yu's current eyesight, he could roughly determine that the Heavenly Law Alliance's warship was a semi-manufactured spiritual artifact. When they reached the bottom of the warship, a guiding light beam descended, enveloped the 3 of them, and transported them into the warship. When they had just landed, Su Yu felt a piercingly cold and solemn aura. When he opened his eyes, he saw that there were 2 rows of murderous guards around them, who were vigilantly staring at them. After ascertaining that it was a patrol team, they put away their weapons and continued to surround the transportation portal. This was to prevent enemies from using the transportation portal to enter the warship. Please inform Alliance Master Long that the 10th Scouting Team has returned, and they have an important matter to report. Gang Dalei instructed one of the guards, then said, Black Snow. Oh, Su Yu, I will bring you to see the Undead Phoenix Master. She is currently looking after my teacher and Lord Yu. Su Yu had come for this, so he immediately nodded. Zi Yunxiang then said, "Then you can go first. I will go to see my father. If he knows that you are still alive, he will surely be very happy." "We will meet again later," Su Yu said, then quickly walked toward the undead phoenix master's place with Gang Dalei. Under Gang Dalei's guidance, they went straight to the warship's highest level. This was the place where many elders lived, and it was heavily guarded. Gang Dalei showed his identity 3 times, and they passed through 3 checkpoints before they reached the deepest part of the warship. The Heavenly Law Alliance often encounters otherworldly strong martial artists, and there are often casualties. Hence, the undead Phoenix Master, who is skilled in healing elixirs, is very important. She is one of the most important targets of protection, and the guards around her are comparable to Alliance Master Longs. No one would dare to disturb her. Gang Dalei explained as he walked. Suddenly, he raised his brows. "What are you doing here?" After they turned a corner, they discovered that a youth in a luxurious robe was peeking inside the undead Phoenix Master's room through a crack in the door. Hearing Gang Dalei's scolding, he did not show any fear. Instead, he frowned and turned his head. "There is no place in the Heavenly Law Alliance that I cannot go. I am asking you, why are you sneaking around here?" Gang Dalei was clearly disgusted by this person. "Who asked you to be so nosy? That old man is about to die, yet he still dares to be so arrogant. You are lucky to be able to return alive this time." The youth in the luxurious robe grew impatient and stopped peeking. He let out a cold grunt and turned to leave with his hands clasped behind his back. He swaggered around, not paying any attention to the guards. Su Yu was confused. "Brother Dalei, who is this person? He seems to have an unusual identity." Gang Dalei let out a disdainful laugh. "What identity? He is merely a spoiled brat who relies on his grandfather." "That's right, Miss Z mentioned him just now." It was him. Fu Songshan's grandson had failed to force Zi Yunxiang to marry him, and was now secretly making things difficult for her. Then what is he peeking at here for? Su Yu was disgusted. He walked to the front of the undead Phoenix Master's room and looked into the room from his previous angle. His expression turned cold. From his current angle, he could see the bed in the middle of the room. He could also see the unconscious Xia Jingyu on the bed. Gang Dalei walked over and took a look. He instantly understood what the youth had been looking at. That bastard! He actually dared to lay his hands on an unconscious woman. Gang Dalei was furious. Shameless rat! If my master were awake, would I still need to endure this? What is his name? Su Yu retracted his cold gaze, but his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Gang Dalei froze, hesitating. Fu Hongxue. Brother Su, do not do anything foolish. The Heavenly Law Alliance is the only safe haven on the continent. If you wish to continue staying here, you can only keep the peace. Do not cause trouble, especially that brat just now. He is a vicious and vengeful person. Su Yu calmly nodded. Yes, I understand. Gang Dalei did not notice the flash of murderous intent in Su Yu's eyes. Pushing open the door, Su Yu saw Xia Jingyu immediately. Her beautiful face was like the most beautiful scenery in the world, even when she was unconscious. At this moment, she was quietly lying on the bed, her brows furrowed. It was as if she was in deep sleep, her heart filled with worry. Jingyu, I am back. Su Yu held her fingers. Their warmth passed through their fingertips and reached deep into their souls. Chapter 6:16. Their hearts had always been connected. Holding Xia Jingyu's hand, Su Yu examined her injuries. The injuries to her bones and internal organs were gradually recovering, probably thanks to Undead Phoenix Master. Apart from that, Su Yu did not find any other injuries. So why was Xia Jingyu still in a deep sleep? Who are you? The door was pushed open, and a gentle, middle-aged woman entered with a frown. Gang Dalei hurried over from the side hall and said hurriedly, Elder, it is Black Snow Devil King. He is Black Snow Devil King, and also Su Yu. Black Snow Devil King? You are Black Snow Devil King? Undead Phoenix Master was shocked. The Black Snow Devil King who had given Sienna a high-grade divine artifact, the one who had been blinded by the heavenly wrath? Wait, wasn't Su Yu the traitor who was once wanted by the Empire of Darkness? He was actually Black Snow Devil King. After a while, Undead Phoenix Master finally accepted the truth. You hid it from me so well. So you are Sienna's fiancé. No wonder you are so protective of her. It is a pity that Sienna. Undead Phoenix Master was in a daze. Knowing that Sienna had not returned, she was in a bad mood. Su Yu said, regarding Sienna, I will report to you later. May I ask, where did you go just now? Undead Phoenix Master said blankly, Fu Tsangshan asked me to go over to discuss the creation of healing elixirs. But when I went, he was in seclusion, so I rushed back. Hearing this, Gang Dalei and Su Yu's expressions turned cold. Elder, do you know what Brother Su Yu and I saw when we arrived? Gang Dalei said angrily, telling her everything he had seen. Hearing this, Undead Phoenix Master's face turned cold, and her whole body trembled with anger. That bastard! How dare he falsely pass on Fu Tsangshan's words and transfer me away, plotting against Lord Yu. Just thinking about it made Undead Phoenix Master tremble with anger. If not for Su Yu and Gang Dalei's timely arrival, he might have succeeded and done something irreparable to the unconscious Xia Jingyu. It was laughable. Xia Jingyu had used her life to protect her chastity. She had not fallen into the hands of the cruel foreign clans, but she had almost been sullied by her own people. Such a ridiculous thing had actually happened in the Heavenly Law Alliance. Fu Tsangshan, what a grandson you are! I'll report this to Alliance leader long later. Let's see how you're going to face him then. Undead Phoenix Master was furious. Su Yu's expression was calm. Thank you, Elder, but you need not interfere in this matter. The Heavenly Dao Union situation is very complicated. Senior, you just have to protect yourself. I will settle the matter between me and Jingyu. Humph. As an elder of the Heavenly Law Alliance, how can I turn a blind eye to it? Don't worry, even if we can't deal with that brat, it will be good to embarrass Fu Tsangshan so that he can discipline his grandson. The Undead Phoenix Master had a straightforward personality and was quite similar to the Phoenix Cabinet's master. Su Yu stopped trying to stop her and turned his attention to Xia Jingyu. After chatting for a while, the Undead Phoenix Master said, her injuries have actually recovered. However, for some reason, her consciousness still hasn't woken up. But don't worry, her consciousness is gradually becoming active, and she will wake up soon. You don't have to worry too much. Hearing this, Su Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Compared to her, Senior Jiu is the real trouble. Undead Phoenix Master came to the side hall. Su Yu followed her and saw Elder Jiu lying on the bed. His face had turned yellow, and he looked like a withered tree leaf. The once playful Elder Jiu was now just a weak old man who didn't have long to live. Gang Dalei sat quietly in front of the bed. Even though he was trying his best to stay strong, he could still feel his sorrow. It was Elder Jiu who didn't mind his strangeness and had brought him up. To him, Elder Jiu was like a teacher and a father. Su Yu raised his brows as he looked at Elder Jiu. He could feel that there were still remnants of disastrous thunder in his body. His physical body had been destroyed to the extreme, and his consciousness had fallen into eternal torment due to the pain of his physical body. This was the reason why he had fallen into a coma. Elder, are there no suitable elixirs for him? Su Yu asked. Master Undead Phoenix sighed. There are plenty of elixirs. At the end of the day, he's just physically injured. There are plenty of elixirs that can heal him. However, the problem is that the remaining tribulation lightning in his body is very troublesome. Any external objects that enter his body will be destroyed by the tribulation lightning first, and the elixirs won't be able to take effect. She then added, we have to get rid of the disastrous thunder first before we can heal him. However, the disastrous thunder is so terrifying that even a fairy like him can't withstand it, let alone others. If I hadn't insisted on bringing Senior Jew back, I'm afraid he would have been rejected outside the door. No one can handle the disastrous thunder in his body. Is that so? What Undead Phoenix Master wanted to say was that even if Elder Jew woke up, the second wave of the heavenly tribulation was coming. Even at his peak, Elder Jew couldn't withstand the disastrous thunder, let alone with his injured body. Slap! Gang Dalei suddenly slapped himself in the face. 2 tears rolled down from his tiger-like eyes. I am useless. I followed my teacher's instructions and didn't find the lightning-based magical treasure. Otherwise, my teacher wouldn't have been injured by the disastrous thunder. Suyu felt uneasy. The lightning-based magical treasure had been obtained by Suyu in advance. However, even without Suyu, Gang Dalei would have been stopped by Yang Yidao and wouldn't have been able to obtain it in the end. Why don't you let me try? Suyu suddenly said. Undead Phoenix Master asked curiously, You? What method do you have? Gang Dalei wiped away his tears. Brother Su, if you can save this old thing, I, Gang Dalei, will do anything for you. Suyu waved his hand. Don't say that. Only Undead Phoenix Master can save him. I'm just trying to find a way to get rid of the disastrous thunder in his body. Can you really do it? Undead Phoenix Master heard Suyu's confident tone and was shocked. Suyu smiled. If there are no accidents, there should be an 80% chance of success. However, due to some reasons, I can't be disturbed during this process. I hope you can help me guard the door temporarily and don't let anyone in. The Undead Phoenix Master and Gang Dalei understood that Suyu was preparing to use some underhanded methods to send them away. Alright. I'll leave the old man to you. I'll guard the door for you. Without another word, Gang Dalei's footsteps became more energetic. The excitement in his heart could be vaguely seen. Undead Phoenix Master rolled her eyes. I haven't seen you for 2 years, and you've become so successful. You even want to hide it from me. However, she still left the room immediately. Everyone had their own secrets and didn't want outsiders to know about them. Suyu's actions were normal, and it had nothing to do with trust. Suyu touched his nose. He wouldn't mind them watching him use normal tricks, but there were some things that couldn't be exposed to the public. Suyu took out a palm-sized jade box with a flip of his palm, and a black hair that looked like a steel needle was lying quietly in it. The devil's hair can attract the disastrous thunder, but the demonic energy in it is very ferocious. Elder Jio is at his weakest right now. If the demonic energy enters his body, it will make things worse. Shaking his head, Suyu put it away. Then, he took out a 5-colored jade seal. It was the 5-elemental strong thunder seal. Looking at the evil energy seal, Suyu shook his head. It won't work. It's temporarily sealed, so it can't absorb the disastrous thunder. Finally, Suyu took out a 5-colored, beautiful, soft armor from the 9-jade spiritual pearl. I can only try using this. This was the Thunder Herb armor that Wu Aoyue had spent a lot of effort to weave. Suyu had thought that it wouldn't be put to use so soon. He didn't expect to use it now. Suyu put the armor on Elder Jio's chest. The 5-colored light of the Thunder Herb passed through Elder Jio's skin and entered his flesh. Every corner of his body was covered in the light. Wherever the 5-colored light shone, the disastrous thunder seemed to have met its natural enemy. It was sucked away and absorbed into the Thunder Herb armor. Elder Jio's complexion gradually improved, and his pain lessened. After half a cup of tea's time, Suyu put away the Thunder Herb. He pinched it with his fingers, and a crackling sound came from the Thunder Herb. Suyu's fingers became numb, and he quickly moved it away. After the Thunder Herb absorbs the disastrous thunder, it seems like it can turn it into a part of itself. It can be used for defense. Suyu was surprised to find that the 80-year-old Thunder Herb had another function. Not only could it absorb the disastrous thunder, but it could also turn it into a part of its defense. Su Yu hadn't seen this feature during the exchange festival. The fact that Elder Jiu was injured to this extent showed how powerful the disastrous thunder was. Now that he had turned it into the thunder herb armor, it would be very useful. Su Yu was very satisfied with such an unexpected gain. Elder Jiu had done him a favor, and he wouldn't ask for anything in return to expel the thunderbolts. It was purely an accident that he had obtained such a benefit. Outside the door, Gang Dalei was pacing back and forth with his hands clasped behind his back. It was as if he had lost his soul. Elder, how much of the disastrous thunder do you think Su Yu can expel from my master's body? Gang Dalei scratched his cheek. Seeing his anxious expression, the undead Phoenix Master was both annoyed and amused. You ask me? Who should I ask? Gang Dalei was angry, but the anxiety in his eyes did not diminish. However, if he can expel 50% of the thunderbolts, I can ask Alliance Master Long to get the Void World Senior to help. Maybe the Void World Senior's corpse can expel the other 50%. The undead Phoenix Master said. I'm afraid that Su Yu has underestimated the thunderbolts. With his abilities, it would be difficult for him to expel 10%. Forget it. If he can expel 30% of the thunderbolts, I will go all out and use the Calamity Passing Elixir that I have kept for many years to expel 20% of the thunderbolt. Finally, I will ask Alliance Master Long for help. The undead Phoenix Master clenched her teeth. She had actually given up on passing her own ordeal. 30%. Su Yu only needed to expel 30% of the thunderbolts. Creak. When the door opened, Su Yu looked relaxed. He did not look tired at all. Gang Dalei's heart sank. Did he fail? Brother Su, did you manage to expel more than 50% of the thunderbolts? Gang Dalei asked anxiously. Su Yu was stunned. 50%? If he wanted to expel it, he must have done it completely. What does 50% mean? Seeing that Su Yu was in a daze, Gang Dalei's heart sank. So, less than 40%? What are you trying to say? Su Yu was confused. He looked at Gang Dalei and Qiufeng. Seeing his confused look, the undead Phoenix Master sighed in her heart. She asked, Su Yu, just tell me directly. How much of the thunderbolts in Elder Jiu's body did you expel? If you can expel more than 30% of them, I will have a way to expel the rest of Elder Jiu's disastrous thunder. If not, Su Yu finally understood. He asked in surprise, Did I not make myself clear before I expelled them? Of course, I meant all of them. What do you mean by a few percent? All of a sudden, the undead Phoenix Master and Gang Dalei looked as if they had seen a ghost. All of them, expelled. Only half of the Void World Senior's body could be eliminated. How could Su Yu eliminate them all by himself? Let me take a look. The undead Phoenix Master came back to her senses and hurried into the room. Gang Dalei's heart was pounding as he followed her in. Before he reached Elder Jiu's bed, he heard the undead Phoenix Master exclaim, My God! Where is the disastrous thunder? Su Yu, where did the disastrous thunder go? Have you eaten it? Su Yu could not help but roll his eyes at her. You are the disastrous thunder. There is no time to lose. Hurry up and let Elder Jiu consume the elixir. His second heavenly tribulation is coming soon. Before that, he should nourish his body as much as possible, Su Yu said. However, his last sentence stunned Gang Dalei and the undead Phoenix Master. Although I can help him get through the heavenly tribulation, if his body is too weak and he is killed by the disastrous thunder, you will have to blame me for that. The two of them looked at Su Yu as if they were looking at a monster, and they stared at him without blinking. Brother Su, what did you say just now? Gang Dalei could not believe his ears. A half-fairy had said that he would help a fairy realm get through the heavenly tribulation. If Su Yu had said those words earlier, Gang Dalei might have laughed out loud. What a joke! But now, he had to take it seriously. Judging from the way he had expelled the disastrous thunder, Su Yu might really have a trump card to deal with the terrifying heavenly tribulation. Su Yu blinked his eyes. Helping him get through the heavenly tribulation? After all, I owe Elder Jiu a favor. As long as it is within my power, I should help him. As long as it is within my power. Su Yu's casual words showed his confidence and how easy it would be for him to capture the target. Lad, if you can really help me get through the heavenly tribulation, I will betroth Xian to you immediately. The undead Phoenix Master gasped. She realized that she could no longer see through the young man from the past. Su Yu was speechless. Xian was his fiancé. How could she betroth Xian to him? Elder, if you need any help with your breakthrough, just tell me, Su Yu said. The undead Phoenix Master was satisfied. She immediately took out a healing elixir and stuffed it into Elder Jiu's mouth. Elder Jiu's face was turning yellow at a visible speed. He was recovering rapidly. All right, I can finally start treating his injuries. Within 3 days, his injuries will more or less recover. The undead Phoenix Master clapped her hands and heaved a sigh of relief. Gang Dalei was pleasantly surprised. He rushed over and gave Su Yu a bear hug. Brother Su, thank you, thank you. In the future, I will be your slave or your horse. You only need to say the word. Su Yu smiled. Gang Dalei's character was indeed admirable. Creak. At that moment, the door was pushed open. A guard came in to report, Captain Gang, please head to the main hall with this young man to report your situation. The undead Phoenix Master's expression changed. That's great. I also want to know how Fu Tsongshan is going to be humiliated. However, Su Yu extended his hand to stop her. He said thoughtfully, Elder, please do one more thing for me. Chapter 6:17. Over the years, whenever the Heavenly Law Union descended upon the mortal world, chaos would ensue. He wanted to protect the young experts of the human race and extend the vitality of the human race's future generations. He wanted to prevent the death of outstanding geniuses in this chaotic world, which would cause the loss of experts of the human race. The Heavenly Law Alliance upholds justice in the world and is the final fortress of the human race. Now that the alien races were invading and the continent was in chaos, only the Heavenly Law Alliance adhered to tradition and took in the young experts from all over the continent to avoid the chaos. A selfless act was admirable. The undead Phoenix Master, Zidonglai, Lin Yunhe, and the others were willing to work for the Heavenly Law Alliance after retiring. To a large extent, it was because of the Heavenly Law Alliance's selflessness. Su Yu also deeply respected the Heavenly Law Alliance. Even though he had a brief conflict with the Heavenly Law Alliance Master, it did not affect his respect for the Heavenly Law Alliance. In this world, there were very few people who did not care about fame or profit, but only thought about the future of the continent. As strong as the Empire of Darkness was, and as weak as a single person who had sacrificed themselves for the sake of the continent. Even after tens of thousands of years, their original intentions had not changed? Nothing could be more righteous than this. Brother Su, you don't need to be nervous. We are just reporting the situation of your predicament. You can just speak frankly. The Heavenly Law Alliance's elders are all kind, so they won't make things difficult for you. Seeing Su Yu's solemn expression, Gang Dalei misunderstood that Su Yu was nervous. Su Yu replied with a smile. He had once fought against 3 fairies alone, yet he had not been nervous. So, now that he was facing a group of half-fairies, why would he be nervous? As they chatted, they arrived at the hall. The hall was located in the Heavenly Law Union's central region. It was the core of the Heavenly Law Union. The decorations were simple and not extravagant at all. It complemented the traditions of the Heavenly Law Alliance. At this moment, there were several elders in the hall. Master Blacksmith Lin Yunhe was looking at them with a smile. Beside him, Zidonglai, who had been stripped of his position as an elder and had been reduced to an ordinary member, stood among the group of elders. He looked at Su Yu's figure with surprise and delight. However, he felt slightly awkward standing among the group of elders. Beside him was Zi Yunxiang, who had come to report on her mission. A pair of clear eyes were fixed on the silver-haired figure. No matter how many times she looked at him, that figure was still as dazzling and resplendent as his silver hair. Other than that, there were also a few elders whom he did not recognize. They came from the eastern, southern, and western continent. The elders of each continent kept a certain distance from each other. Lin Yunhe and Zi Donglai of the northern continent seemed especially weak and isolated. The undead Phoenix Master, snow-gazing Taoist, and the North Pole Sword Sage were not present. Inu. I should call you Suyu. Long time no see. Lin Yunhe waved his hand at him, his face filled with a gratified smile. Not only did you not die, but you also had other fortuitous encounters. I heard that you killed two crystals half-fairies by yourself. It's really unbelievable. Lin Yunhe had a deep impression of Suyu. He knew that Suyu had great talent in crafting weapons. However, it was a pity that Suyu had focused on the martial path and rejected Lin Yunhe's offer to nurture him. Thank you for your concern, Master Lin. I just managed to escape from a great calamity, and I only managed to obtain a fortuitous encounter by luck. As for those two crystals half-fairy realm experts, I had to pay a great price to kill them, so they aren't worth mentioning at all, Suyu said modestly. After hearing what was said, Zi Yunxiang tilted her head and looked at Suyu with a smile that was not a smile. This guy still liked to hide his abilities. She clearly remembered that Suyu had easily subdued two powerful crystals half-fairy realm expert. Then, he had used some kind of strange technique to silently kill them. Even now, when he thought about it, he still felt horrified. Gang Dalei grinned. Couldn't this guy be a little more honest? Suyu. Zi Donglai's face was filled with gratification as he called out to Suyu. In front of everyone's eyes he bowed and said, I still haven't thanked you for saving my life. Also, I am indebted to you for taking care of my daughter when I was in trouble. Suyu extended his hand and helped Zi Donglai up. He then smiled and said, Housemaster Zi, you don't have to be so polite. I am indebted to you for thinking highly of me in the past, so I should be the one thanking you. Zi Donglai was indebted to Suyu, and he had wanted to pass on his legacy to him. However, he had been schemed against by Han Jianglin, and his Zi mansion had fallen into Han Jianglin's hands. In fact, he had even planned to betroth Zi Yunxiang to Suyu. Now that they had met again, the past was like smoke, and 3 years had passed in the blink of an eye. Back then, I knew that you were an extraordinary person, and that you were definitely a dragon among men. Now, your cultivation is probably on par with the older generation, right? Zi Donglai could faintly feel the pressure emanating from Suyu, and his heart was filled with regret. If he had been more decisive in the past, Xiang'er would have had a good husband. Moreover, he glanced at Zi Yunxiang out of the corner of his eye. How could such a gaze escape her father's notice? Oh, you are Suyu, the #1 genius of the northern continent. I have heard of your name before. A kind old man from the southern continent wore a surprised expression. I had thought that you had already died. I never expected that you would cultivate to such a level. It is truly surprising. Suyu did not know this person, but he did not act impolitely. He cupped his fists and said, Elder, you are flattering me. Old Chen, you are indeed flattering me. The northern continent is the weakest among the 5 great continents. The so-called #1 genius is nothing more than this. There is a great disparity between him and the 4 great ancient clans and the 7 lords of darkness. Moreover, our Long Wuxin cannot be mentioned in the same breath. His reputation back then was somewhat exaggerated. A red-faced old man from the western continent stroked his beard as he spoke. Hearing this, Suyu was not angered. He smiled and bowed. Elder, you are right. Even though you are young, you are quite shrewd. You did not get angry. Not bad. It was unknown whether the red-faced old man was praising or criticizing him. The white-faced old Chen tried to smooth things over for Suyu. Old Zhang, your words are a bit too much. The northern continent lacks natural resources, and it is really unfair to compare it to the other 4 continents. Since he was able to become the number 1 genius of the northern continent, his potential is naturally not low. I am just speaking the truth, and I do not have any ill intentions. The red-faced old Zhang spoke calmly. Black Snow Devil King, who appeared out of nowhere, chased us for 1,000,000 miles and overturned the northern continent's alliance. TSK, even among the Heavenly Law Alliance's elders, he was an outstanding youth who received much attention. At that time, many of the old men felt that it would be more appropriate to call him the number 1 genius of the northern continent. As he spoke, he looked at Su Yu with a faint smile. I am a straightforward person, and I do not have any ill intentions. If you listen to me, it will be a punishment for you. But, if you don't, then just pretend that I never said anything. Old Shen opened his mouth, but he was unable to retort. Anyone could see that old Zhang was trying to belittle Su Yu, but he was using his status as an elder to lecture him. This was why no one could find an excuse to get angry at him. Moreover, the Black Snow Devil King's reputation had shaken the whole continent, and Su Yu's title of the northern continent's number 1 genius was indeed quite embarrassing. Su Yu's expression was calm. I understand. Many thanks for your teachings, elder. He was not angry at all, and he just stood among the crowd expressionlessly. It's good that you understand. Although you are far from being on par with the Black Snow Devil King, if you properly encourage yourself, you might be able to surpass him one day. I only spoke because I saw that you have great potential. Now I will just say this much, so you better behave yourself. Old Zhang flicked his sleeves as if he was a great expert. Su Yu agreed, but did not refute him. After all, he had seen many things, and he was too lazy to deal with such tricks. Hee, Elder Zhang, even if Su Yu doesn't bother with you, I won't be so good-tempered. Gang Dalei was infuriated when he saw that Su Yu was like a taciturn gourd. Old Zhang said calmly, Elder Jiu's brilliant disciple is so impudent. Gang Dalei laughed coldly. Come on, why are you pretending to be a great expert? We all know why you are targeting Su Yu. Not only did you steal Housemaster Z's position, but you are also targeting Housemaster Z and trying to drive him away. You know that Su Yu and Housemaster Z have a good relationship, so you can't help but find fault with him? You are so sanctimonious. If my master was here, would he still tolerate you? Old Zhang frowned slightly. You are going too far. There are many elders here, so you should watch your words. Otherwise, I don't mind teaching you how to conduct yourself on behalf of Elder Jiu. How arrogant! He actually dared to teach Elder Jiu's disciple how to conduct himself. If Elder Jiu was safe and sound, no one would dare to say anything. But now, not only was he unconscious, but he was also about to die. What was there to be afraid of? Humph! You can be proud of yourself. Gang Dalei snorted and said, Also, I don't mind teaching Senior Zhang how to conduct himself. I will teach you not to look down on others. Gang Dalei laughed mockingly. Do you know who is the Black Snow Devil King that you said Su Yu is far inferior to? Old Zhang replied calmly, Does it have anything to do with me? Humph! Of course it has something to do with you. This is because the Black Snow Devil King is Su Yu, who was belittled by you. Su Yu is the Black Snow Devil King, and the Black Snow Devil King is Su Yu. He has changed his appearance and assumed the identity of the Black Snow Devil King, so the two of them are the same person. What a joke! You look down on others and think that you are a great expert, but you don't know that the person standing in front of you is the Black Snow Devil King himself. What? His words shocked everyone present. How is this possible? The Black Snow Devil King is actually Su Yu. Speaking of which, the Black Snow Devil King suddenly appeared in the northern continent after Su Yu disappeared. Could it be? For a moment, everyone was discussing the matter, and the quiet hall became extremely lively. Zi Yunxiang and Lin Yunhe looked at old Zhang, who had a stiff expression on his face. They smiled but did not speak. They had naturally heard the truth from Zi Yunxiang. This old man likes to put on an act in front of others, but now he has kicked an iron plate and embarrassed himself. Lin Yunhe chuckled. He felt that it was unfair for his good friend, Zi Donglai. Zi Donglai smiled calmly. Zi Yunxiang, who was at the side, also felt proud of herself when she saw the elder's shock. Regardless of whether it was Su Yu, Yin Yu, or the Black Snow Devil King, all of his identities were dazzling. Old Zheng's expression stiffened, and he felt a little embarrassed. He then said in a low voice, "Su Yu, since you are the Black Snow Devil King, why did you lie to us?" What he was most angry about was that Su Yu had not said anything and had not revealed his identity, which had put him in an awkward position. Su Yu raised his head and calmly said, "I didn't lie to you. I just felt that there was no need to mention it. Since Elder Zhang likes to teach people a lesson, it's fine as long as you are happy. Why expose me?" Chapter 6:18. You! Old Zhang's face turned even redder from anger. However, he had no excuse to reprimand Su Yu. Su Yu had not been disrespectful at all, so how could he reprimand him? He could only swallow this grievance into his stomach. "All of you. All right, I'll remember this." Old Zhang waved his sleeves and left in a sorry state. Gang Dalei did not let him off. "Hee, Elder Zhang, you're so old, yet you're still so shrewd? You can't even handle such a small grievance?" Old Zhang's face turned red with hatred. The crowd was in an uproar. 2 rows of guards entered the hall and stood on both sides, respectfully welcoming the arrival of an important person. The guards of honor were neat and mighty, with an extraordinary aura. The only person who could enjoy such treatment was the Heavenly Law Alliance's master, Long Juexin. A middle-aged man with an imposing appearance stepped into the passageway to welcome them respectfully. His footsteps were like the wind, and his aura was extraordinary. He gave off a faint pressure. The elders on both sides were filled with respect. Compared to the first time they had met, Long Juexin's aura was slightly unstable, which was a sign that he was injured. At the same time, he looked haggard and dispirited, as if he was not in good spirits. In just 3 years, he seemed to have aged 10 years. "Everyone, let's get down to business," Long Juexin said with a bleak expression. The elders stood on both sides and waited quietly. "Dalei Yunxiang, tell me about your encounters with the enemies," Long Juexin said slowly as he looked at Su Yu. Gang Dalei's expression became serious as he described the encounters with the two crystals half-fairies. After listening to him, Long Juexin asked in a deep voice, "Everyone, what do you think?" It was obvious that his tone was very heavy. "Alliance Master, the area that the otherworldly invaders are patrolling has expanded again. A month ago, they had not even patrolled this area," Old Chen said with a serious expression. "I agree. They are starting to expand their territory from the big factions to the surrounding small factions," another elder said worriedly. "In the past 2 years, they have only occupied the major factions. They have not set foot in the surrounding small factions or the barren lands. This is because the major factions like the Phoenix Cabinet are still resisting. Now, it seems that they have already gained a firm foothold and have completely suppressed the major factions. They have started to occupy every corner of the Zhenlong continent. For the past 2 years, the Heavenly Law Alliance's warships had been wandering around desolate lands. Now that the otherworld invaders had completely occupied the area, their range of activity was gradually shrinking. We can hide for now, but we can't hide forever." Old Chen added, "However, Senior Jiu is heavily injured, and we don't have the strength to launch a counterattack by relying on the First World Senior." The situation was getting grim. The crowd was silent. The days from now on would only get more and more difficult. "We'll talk about this later. We can't stay here for long. Let's leave this place as soon as possible." Long Juexin took out a red ball from his bosom. It was about the size of a head, and it shone brilliantly like a crystal. The heart of the heavenly law is the core magical treasure that controls the battleship. It has always been controlled by the Alliance Master, Gang Dalei explained to Su Yu in a low voice. Su Yu observed silently. After imbuing it with spiritual energy, the heart of the heavenly law emitted formless waves and activated some of the functions of the battleship. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As the battleship trembled, it started moving slowly and flew away. Only then did the crowd relax slightly. Now, let's discuss another matter. Long Jueshin's sharp gaze locked onto Su Yu. You saved the two of them, and in the process you killed two crystals half-fairies. Is this true? Su Yu nodded calmly. Yes, it was due to luck. Long Jueshin shook his head slightly. Two crystals half-fairy killing two people at the same level. No matter how you look at it, it can't be explained by luck. As a three crystals half-fairy, Long Jueshin could naturally see through Su Yu's cultivation. Hearing this, the elders were all startled. What? This lad is also a two crystals half-fairy? Old Chen was also startled. He couldn't see through Su Yu's cultivation, so he assumed that Su Yu had used some kind of concealment method. He was more inclined to believe that Su Yu had used some kind of technique or treasure to instantly kill two people at the same level. When he heard that Su Yu was actually a two crystals half-fairy, he was extremely shocked. Another top-notch genius like Gang Dalei. Many elders exclaimed inwardly. Every generation has its own geniuses. We are all getting old. One of the elders sighed. They had only managed to become two crystals half-fairies in 100 years, yet this group of talented youths had easily reached their level. It's just that I had a fortuitous encounter in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. It's not a big deal. It wasn't that Su Yu was being modest, but that the Zhenlong continent's environment couldn't compare to the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Long Jueshin's gaze became slightly sad. He then asked, Su Yu, are you willing to stay in the Heavenly Law Alliance? Hearing this, Gang Dalei was overjoyed, and he secretly signaled Su Yu with his eyes. The Zhenlong continent was in a state of turmoil. Now that otherworldly invaders had appeared even in a remote place, there was no safe place left. Who didn't want to join the Heavenly Law Alliance to avoid this calamity? Joining the Heavenly Law Alliance doesn't restrict you to your personal status. If you feel that you can survive alone, you can leave at any time, Long Jueshin added. Su Yu thought for a moment, then agreed. Okay, I can. Hearing this, Zidonglai, Lin Yunhe, and the others smiled. Zi Yunxiang was even more overjoyed. Hehe, I can always look for you to spar with in the future. There are many training grounds in the battleship. Gang Dalei hammered Su Yu's chest. He was happy for him. The older generation, such as Elder Chen, were also happy to see this. Congratulations, Alliance Master. You will be sheltering another outstanding talent. Long Jueshin relaxed. If that's the case, Su Yu, follow the guards down. We'll carry out the routine inspection. What inspection? Swoosh. Two crystals half-fairy realm experts walked in from outside the door. Behind them, there was a corpse dressed in black clothes. It was the corpse of the First World Senior. Lin Yunhe and Zidonglai's expressions immediately changed. Gang Dalei's smile stiffened. Alliance Master, it's just a routine inspection. Why would you use the First World Senior's corpse? Lin Yunhe could sense that something was amiss. Zidonglai furrowed his brows. Alliance Master, the inspection is just to check if the person you are taking in has colluded with the otherworldly invaders. It's enough to verify his innocence. But, why would you use two crystals half-fairy realm experts and the First World Senior? Alliance Master, what is the meaning of this? Long Jueshin waved his hand. Don't misunderstand. Su Yu's fighting prowess is astonishing. For safety's sake, it's better to have another layer of protection. Su Yu squinted his eyes. Is he doubting my motives for coming to the Heavenly Law Alliance? Alliance Master, please. Lin Yunhe wanted to say more. Slap. Long Jueshin flew into a rage and slammed his palm on the table. His expression was gloomy. Am I the Alliance Master? Or are you? It's not up to you to tell me what to do. Su Yu. Since you have entered the Heavenly Law Alliance, you will be bound by the Heavenly Law Alliance's rules. Now that we are going to inspect your identity, you must cooperate. Long Jueshin's expression was stern. Someone, capture Su Yu first. The first half of his sentence was to appease Su Yu, but the second half was completely different. He wanted to capture Su Yu in front of everyone. What happened? It's just an identity inspection. Why do you want to capture him alive? Zidonglai finally felt that something was amiss. Long Jueshin wasn't taking Su Yu in. He was obviously trying to capture Su Yu. At that moment, a cold snort came from outside the hall. Why do you want to capture him alive? Do you even need to ask? The answer is obvious. They are all 2 crystals half-fairies, yet he was able to easily kill 2 half-fairies and save 2 of the Heavenly Law Alliance's geniuses. Don't you think that his identity is very suspicious? A young man in luxurious clothes walked into the hall under the protection of Elder Zhang and another 2 crystals half-fairy realm guard. Fu Hongxue? Gang Dalei glared at him angrily. Is it you, bastard? Fine, I will capture you first. Then, I will ask you about the stupid things you have done in the past. Swoosh. Gang Dalei took a look at the gap in the defense, then slid his shoulder and dashed forward like a ghost. Elder Zhang and the other old man only had the time to let out a roar and hurriedly stepped forward to protect him. However, Gang Dalei's lips curled up, and an inhuman aura erupted from his body. His speed then increased by 3 times. As his figure flickered, Gang Dalei closed in on Fu Hongxue. Humph! Seeing that he had successfully captured Fu Hongxue, Gang Dalei suddenly heard a cold snort. Gang Dalei's body shook, as if he had been struck by lightning. At the same time, his chest was hit by a palm. With a pathetic groan, Gang Dalei was sent flying back like a cannonball. His feet left a deep mark on the ground before he managed to stop himself. When he looked over, he saw that the person who had attacked him was Long Jueshin. Do you still respect me as the Alliance Master? Long Jueshin said coldly as he stood in front of Fu Hongxue. Gang Dalei suppressed his anger and said, but he almost tainted Lord EU. Shut up. Your words cannot be trusted for now. Long Jueshin shouted coldly. What are you waiting for? Capture Su Yu, Gang Dalei and Zi Yunxiang. I suspect that the 3 of them have already colluded with the otherworldly invaders. Su Yu had strangely killed 2 people at the same level as him, and Gang Dalei and Zi Yunxiang, who had come with him, were suspected of being bribed. Hearing this, Gang Dalei laughed angrily. You old fool! You can't tell right from wrong. He was furious, especially when he saw Fu Hongxue, who was laughing coldly behind Long Jueshin. Dalei, there is no need to say anything. He is just seeking revenge on me. Su Yu extended his hand to stop the furious Gang Dalei. His son, Long Aojue, had gone missing, and Long Jueshin was still holding a grudge against the Black Snow Devil King. Seeking revenge? I am just thinking of the warship's safety. Long Jueshin said calmly. Do it. Wait, Alliance Master. Zidonglai's expression changed. His daughter had become a suspect, and her fate was to be imprisoned. Without his protection, Fu Hongxue, who was daring and cunning, might take the opportunity to lay his hands on Xiang and taint her innocence. If my daughter is a suspect, then am I a suspect as well? Zidonglai asked angrily. He had risked his life for the Heavenly Law Alliance, and was once an elder. His loyalty was impeccable. However, he did not expect Long Jueshin to say coldly, You are right. Everyone involved is a suspect. Do it now. Su Yu, Gang Dalei, Zi Yunxiang, Zidonglai, and Lin Yunhe, capture them all alive. If anyone dares to resist, kill them all. Long Jueshin ordered coldly. Even Lin Yunhe had been implicated. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, a large number of half-fairies swarmed into the hall. There were more than 10 of them. Chapter 6:19. Wait, Alliance Master. Old Chun and the other elders were shocked. How could you believe Fu Hongshue's words and arrest Zi Donglai, Master Lin, and the other elders? The two of them joined the Heavenly Law Alliance before the otherworldly realm invaded, and their performance in the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds is still fresh in their minds. How could they be spies from the otherworldly realm? Alliance Master, please reconsider. Such a hasty decision will surely disappoint the other elders. That's right, Alliance Master. Gang Dalei is Elder Jio's disciple, so I find it hard to believe that he is colluding with the otherworldly realm. Just as Gang Dalei had said, the Heavenly Law Alliance's elders were all righteous, so they all pleaded for Long Jueshin. However, Long Jueshin was determined to go his own way. He coldly said, I have already made up my mind. This is a moment of life and death for the Heavenly Law Alliance, so we cannot afford to make any mistake. Anyone who is suspicious must be investigated thoroughly. If they are proven innocent, we will naturally release them. But this is too rash. Alliance Master, please. Old Chen was somewhat stubborn. Long Jueshin's expression turned cold. Old Chen, you have repeatedly tried to stop me. Are you related to them? If that is the case, I will have to arrest you as well. What? Even Old Chen is going to be arrested? Who would dare to say anything in such a situation? They could not understand why Long Jueshin was acting so rashly. Could it be that he had lost his son and daughter consecutively? Ever since he had learned that Long Wuxin had died in the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion, Long Jueshin had been in low spirits. Now that he was infuriated, it was very likely that he had lost his mind and become a lunatic. Just thinking about it made the other elders' hearts tremble. The Heavenly Law Alliance was in grave danger if a lunatic became the Alliance Master. Arrest him! Long Jueshin coldly snorted. Swoosh! The 2 crystals half-fairies could be considered the Heavenly Law Alliance's mainstays. Apart from the elders, they were the strongest guards of the Heavenly Law Alliance. How dare you! Gang Dalei shouted. Old man, you are muddle-headed. Are you trying to destroy the Heavenly Law Alliance? Zi Donglai and Lin Yunhe could not help but feel disappointed. They looked at each other and realized that Long Jueshin was acting strangely. They had been inspired by the Heavenly Law Alliance to help the human race, and they had come because of its reputation. They had also gotten to know people like Old Chen, who had a fair heart. However, in the face of chaos, the Heavenly Law Alliance had gradually changed. First, there was Fu Tsangshan, who fought for fame and power in the dark. He used all sorts of methods to suppress Zi Donglai. The current alliance leader was obstinate and arbitrary, causing the elders in the alliance to be bitterly disappointed. The Heavenly Law Alliance was no longer the same as it had been in the past. If you dare to resist, you will be punished even more. Long Jueshin coldly snorted. When Gang Dalei saw the 2 crystals half-fairy realm experts swarming toward him, he became anxious. Among them, only he and Su Yu had reached the 2 crystals half-fairy realm. Even though Su Yu was still holding back, he was still outnumbered. Moreover, if it was just the 2 of them, it wouldn't have been a big deal. However, there were still Zi Yunxiang, Zi Donglai, and Lin Yunhe. They weren't a 2 crystals half-fairy realm experts match, and they might not be able to protect the 3 of them in time in such a chaotic battle. Su Yu, what should we do? At such a critical moment, Gang Dalei asked Su Yu. He had an inexplicable trust in Su Yu. As he looked around, Su Yu's expression was calm and unruffled. Surrender, Su Yu said calmly. Surrender? Gang Dalei couldn't believe his own ears. The Black Snow Devil King he knew was arrogant and unruly, yet he had unexpectedly chosen to surrender. As he looked at Zi Yunxiang and the other 2 out of the corner of his eye, Gang Dalei chuckled bitterly. Su Yu was probably afraid that the 3 of them would be injured. Without any resistance, Su Yu and the other 4 were easily captured. Then, they were all shackled, which were made of special materials. Fairy binding shackles. Master Lin, I bet you didn't expect that you would one day be bound by a magical treasure that you made yourself. Fu Hongxue chuckled. Many of the Heavenly Law Alliance's magical artifacts had been created by Lin Yunhe, and the fairy binding shackles that were binding them were one of his masterpieces. They were made of special steel, and even a 3 crystals peak expert wouldn't be able to break free from them. As they were bound, they had no chance of escaping. Lin Yunhe didn't even look at Fu Hongxue. He just looked at Long Juexin and said, Alliance Master Long, I hope that you will wake up soon. The Heavenly Law Alliance is now filled with vile people, and I hope that I will be the last one to be wronged. Even in his current state, Lin Yunhe's heart still belonged to the Heavenly Law Alliance. You don't need to say anything more. Take them away. Long Juexin waved his sleeves, and the guards took them away. The hall became silent. Sigh. The Heavenly Law Alliance isn't what it used to be. Old Shin sighed helplessly. Everyone's emotions were also complicated. Long Juexin's personality had changed greatly, and the Heavenly Law Alliance was now in a precarious situation. Such a scene didn't just affect Su Yu and the other 4, but also the hearts of the Heavenly Law Alliance's people. In the dungeon. The Heavenly Law Alliance's dungeon was made of steel, which was the same material as the shackles on their hands. Unless one had the fighting power of a fairy, it would be impossible to break the shackles and escape. Since ancient times, no matter how powerful the Heavenly Law Alliance's captives were, no one had ever been able to break the shackles and escape. Father, how will we be dealt with? Zi Yunxiang leaned against Zi Donglai. Her eyes were filled with worry and helplessness. Zi Donglai furrowed his brows. His eyes were filled with worry, but he still patted her shoulder and comforted her. Xiang don't worry. I believe that Su Yu wouldn't collude with the otherworldly invaders. Sooner or later, we will be proven innocent. Zi Yunxiang smiled bitterly and said, Father, are you still trying to comfort me? Given the current situation, it doesn't matter whether we are innocent or not. In order to appease Fu Tsongshan and the other factions, even if we are innocent, Long Juexin will use other methods to punish us. Even though she was inexperienced, it didn't mean that she couldn't see through the current situation. Fu Tsongshan's power had increased greatly, and his faction was gradually expanding. Long Juexin, who was once the #1 expert, was heavily injured and had yet to fully recover. Moreover, Fu Tsongshan didn't get along well with the people from the northern continent, so it wasn't a coincidence that Zi Donglai had been removed from his position as an elder. Now that Fu Tsongshan was secretly pressuring them, Long Juexin would probably sacrifice them in order to temporarily appease him. So, you already understand that I was useless and didn't protect you well. Zi Donglai's face was filled with bitterness. Zi Yunxiang shook her head. No, father, you raised me up. It's all because of you that I am who I am today. How can you say that you didn't protect me well? It's all because of the evil people. Zi Donglai sighed softly, his eyes filled with worry. Gang Dalei was furious. A bunch of filthy rats. When my old man wakes up, I will definitely wipe out all of them. The last fortress of the human race has been tarnished by these B***stards. Lin Yunhe sighed. Dalei, don't be impatient. This matter hasn't developed to the last step. It's too late to make a decision next time. I believe that Alliance Master Long will handle this matter impartially. He then added, although he has his own selfish motives and was biased towards his son and daughter, his heart is still on the side of the Heavenly Law Alliance and the people of the Zhenlong continent. Perhaps the pain of losing his son and daughter caused his emotions to become unstable, causing him to do such a reckless thing. Perhaps he will understand after he calms down. Zi Donglai chuckled. Thank you for your kind words, Master Lin. Our fate will depend on how Alliance Master Long decide. If he can handle this matter impartially, I, Zidonglai, will definitely sacrifice my life for the Heavenly Law Alliance and the human race's younger generation. But, if he really wants us to sacrifice ourselves to stabilize Food Songshan, I will accept it. I'm just worried about Xiang Er's fate after I die. That bastard will definitely not let this matter rest, and he will definitely do some outrageous things to Xiang Er. Zidonglai was most worried about his only daughter, Ziyunxiang. Father, don't say that. Ziyunxiang's eyes were slightly red, and she felt like she was about to cry. Both father and daughter had depended on each other for many years, and their love for each other was very deep. Zidonglai sighed softly, feeling guilty. He couldn't help but look at Suyu, who was sitting cross-legged. Ever since he had come in, Suyu had been quietly sitting in a corner, not uttering a single word. As Zidonglai looked at the tall, thin, yet dazzling figure, which was filled with potential, he couldn't get rid of the regret in his heart. Suyu, aren't you worried? Zidonglai hesitantly asked after thinking for a while. Suyu slowly opened his eyes and shook his head. What will come sooner or later. What is there to worry about? He was waiting for an opportunity. How could mere shackles and cages trap him? If he wanted to leave, no one could stop him. However, he wasn't the only one who wanted to escape. There were a few people who wanted to escape. He needed to think of a long-term plan to ensure that they could leave safely. That's true. With such an attitude, it's not surprising that he could achieve what he has today. Zidonglai wanted to say something, but hesitated. After a while, he said, Suyu, Qin Xiener is your fiancée. She hasn't returned yet, so I hope that you won't be too sad. Everyone in the continent knew that Qin Xiener was Suyu's fiancée. Suyu had used his identity as Yu's deputy palace master to barge into the Phoenix cabinet to look for Qin Xiener. Who didn't know about such an impressive feat? The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion had opened, and Qin Xiener hadn't returned. Her fate had been sealed. Suyu was startled. Qin Xiener was still cultivating in the 9-jade spiritual pearl, and she had reached the final stage. Hence, Suyu didn't disturb her. Hearing this, he felt embarrassed. It's all right. Actually, Xiener, you don't have to say it. I know that you are sad, but life moves on. Lingering on the past will only do you harm. Have you ever thought of marrying another virtuous wife? Zidonglai finally revealed his motive, sighing. I shouldn't have said such a thing, but I can only say it when you are in dire straits. Eh? Gang Daliai's brows twitched. He looked at Ziyunxiang, then smiled knowingly. Lin Yunhe chuckled, a meaningful look on his face. Ziyunxiang seemed to know what her father wanted to say. Her face turned red, and she grabbed her father's sleeves, pulling on them with all her might. Her eyes were misty, and it was unknown whether she was crying from anxiety or embarrassment. Zidonglai acted as if no one else was around, continuing, When you were at your peak, I knew that Xiener was no longer worthy of you. Now that you are in jail, I can say this. Suyu, let me ask you again. Are you willing to marry my daughter? Zidonglai spoke his mind. I know that you and Daliai did not resist because you were afraid of the three of us. I also know that you could easily escape. Hearing this, the few of them were shocked. So you could easily escape from the jail? Chapter 620. However, my only worry is that after Xiang Er leaves, she will have no one to rely on. The continent will be in chaos, and the invaders from the otherworldly realm will be savage and fierce. I'm worried that Xiang Er will be bullied and humiliated, so I hope that you can marry her and take good care of her as your husband. Suyu was silent for a while, raising his head to look at Ziyunxiang. Sensing Suyu's gaze, Ziyunxiang lowered her head. She was so nervous that her blood rushed to her head. Her whole body stiffened at once, and she could not even breathe smoothly. She even felt the world spinning around her, her vision turning black. Her delicate skin was as red as the setting sun, reflecting an intoxicating glow. Coupled with her natural temperament, it was even more irresistible. It was undeniable that Zi Yunxiang was a woman of the highest quality in both appearance and temperament. She was hard to find in this world. As a man, if he wasn't moved, he would be lying to himself. However, it was impossible for Su Yu to accept it. After all, he couldn't let Xian'er down, as he still had Xia Jingyu's deep feelings for him. Seeing that Su Yu was silent, Zi Donglai continued, Su Yu, Qin Xian'er has already left. You should also find a place for yourself. Gritting his teeth, Zi Donglai looked at Zi Yunxiang apologetically. Even if we take 10,000 steps back, even if you still love another woman and cannot marry Xiang then I can even be a concubine. I only hope that you can fulfill your duty as a husband to take care of her and protect her. As a father, if there was the slightest possibility, how could he allow his daughter to become someone else's concubine? However, he had no other choice. He could only entrust Zi Yunxiang to Su Yu. Who wouldn't want to take Zi Yunxiang as his wife and protect her for the rest of their lives? Being reduced to a concubine was truly a waste of God's gifts, causing one to sigh with regret. Su Yu sighed inwardly. Qin Xian'er and Xia Jingyu were two women, and it was already difficult for Su Yu to choose between them. Uncle, Su Yu said. Seeing that Su Yu had something that he could not say, Zi Donglai seemed to understand Su Yu's worries. He tilted his head and said, Xiang'er, you should also say something. If you can only become Su Yu's concubine in the future, are you willing? When Zi Yunxiang heard the word concubine, her nervousness instantly turned into misery. As a concubine, she would have to serve her husband with someone else. This was probably a future that Zi Yunxiang had never imagined. It had nothing to do with love or love. It was only about the most basic human dignity. Moreover, Su Yu's heart belonged to someone else, Qin Xian'er, and the person he loved wasn't her. However, for some strange reason, although Zi Yunxiang was extremely unwilling in her heart, she was unable to open her mouth to refuse. There seemed to be some kind of invisible magic that made it hard for her to refuse. She raised her eyes slightly. Through her misty eyes, that silver-haired figure was as dazzling as the blazing sun, making it difficult for her to see the same dazzling brilliance. Apart from Su Yu, it would be difficult to find another man in the world who was as dazzling as him and had left a deep impression on her. Yes. She called out softly and lowered her head once more. The humiliation she had imagined wasn't as intense as she had imagined, it was just grievance and a trace of unwillingness. Deep down in her heart, she was still willing. Even if she just looked at Su Yu quietly, she would still be satisfied. Was he even willing to be a concubine? Gang Dalei revealed a look of understanding. It looked like Zi Yunxiang had feelings for Su Yu. Otherwise, why would such an exceptional woman be willing to be his concubine? Su Yu, do you still need to think about it? Zi Donglai heaved a sigh of relief. He was relieved that his daughter was willing to compromise. Su Yu's heart trembled slightly as he looked at Zi Yunxiang. He couldn't imagine that a woman would agree to be his concubine. Su Yu found it hard to reject such a gesture of friendship for a moment. After calming down for a moment, Qin Xian'er and Xia Jingyu's figures flashed in his mind again. Su Yu sighed. He could only apologize to Zi Yunxiang. Bitch. Right at that moment, a cold snort came from outside the cage. Under the protection of old Zhang and another old man, Fu Hongshue's face was gloomy and filled with anger. He stared at Zi Yunxiang angrily and said, "You'd rather be this lad's concubine than marry me." Fu Hongxue was extremely angry. He had specially come to Zi Donglai to propose marriage, but he had been rejected by both father and daughter. No matter how much he tried to please Zi Donglai was indifferent. Zi Yunxiang didn't even give him a good look. Instead, she hated him. What kind of status did he have? He was Fu Tsongshan's grandson, and his status in the Heavenly Law Alliance was extraordinary. Even the elders had to give him some face. However, Zi Yunxiang didn't want to be his wife. Instead, she wanted to be the concubine of a lad who couldn't even protect himself. Zi Yunxiang's face turned red. You were eavesdropping on us. Shameless. In terms of shamelessness, you are willing to be a lowly woman. How can I compare to you? Fu Hongxue rebuked her angrily. Zi Yunxiang was so angry that her whole body trembled. Yes, so what if I am willing to be a lowly woman? I will marry anyone but a shameless scoundrel like you. Fu Hongxue's eyes turned cold. Fine. I came here to ask you one last time about your feelings. Since you have said so, my patience has run out. Even if I can't win your heart, can't I win your body? Old Zhang, drag her out? Old Zhang smiled. Yes, young master. How dare you? Zidonglai was furious. He stood up abruptly and stood in front of Zi Yunxiang. Even Lin Yunhe, who had an extraordinary temperament, couldn't help but scold him angrily. Junior, that's enough. Gang Dalai was even more furious. You bastard, hiding behind your elders and scheming. If you have the guts, fight me fair and square. Faced with their anger, Fu Hongxue stared at Gang Dalai and laughed coldly. What a brainless fool. Apart from shouting, what else can you do? You are just a prisoner. What right do you have to fight me? Creak. Old Zhang opened the prison door and laughed coldly. Housemaster Zi, I'm sorry. Young master has given me an order. This is not what I wanted. As he spoke, he reached out to grab Zi Yunxiang. Zidonglai tried his best to stop him. However, he was restrained and was no match for Fu Hongxue. He was easily pushed away by old Zhang. Su Yu sighed in his heart. The time had not come yet. It seemed like he could only give up on his plan. Slowly standing up, Su Yu exerted strength in his 5 fingers and was about to break the chains. Stop! However, at that moment a deep voice came from outside the prison. Surrounded by 2 rows of guards, Long Juexin descended into the prison. His cold eyes surveyed the surroundings as he coldly scolded, What are you doing? Old Zhang's eyelids twitched. He immediately stopped and rushed out of the cage. He bowed and said, Greetings, Alliance Head. We learned that they were secretly discussing an escape plan, so we came to question them. Alliance Head, please investigate. Alliance Master Long, I, Fu Hongxue, can testify that everything we have said is true, Fu Hongxue said. Long Juexin's cold expression softened a little. All right, I understand. You can leave now. I will start interrogating them. It is not appropriate for unrelated people to be here. Fu Hongxue smiled. Yes, Alliance Master. As he spoke, he left the prison along with the 2 elders. When they reached the outside world, Fu Hongxue's expression became gloomy. This insensible trash. He really came at the wrong time. No matter how arrogant he was, he still had to restrain himself in front of Long Juexin. With a cold look on his face, Fu Hongxue looked back at the prison before he turned around and left. In the prison, Long Juexin stood outside the prison with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked at the 5 of them indifferently. Alliance Master, Fu Hongxue is a scoundrel. I hope that you can expel him as soon as possible. He will definitely cause trouble in the future. Lin Yunhe was still angry. Long Juexin looked at Zi Yunxiang, who was crying emotionally. He said calmly, I don't need you to teach me how to do things. Take them away. Long Juexin waved his hand. 2 rows of guards entered the prison and grabbed Su Yu and the others. Zidonglai was surprised. What are you doing? Long Juexin said calmly, You have colluded with outsiders from the other world. This is a serious matter. How can you be interrogated in such a place? In other words, he wanted to bring them to a safe place for interrogation. A bad feeling arose in everyone's heart. Under the escort of 2 rows of guards, they were brought to the bottom of the battleship. There were very few people along the way. Even if there were, they would be chased away by the guards who had gone to scout the way. Hence, they did not meet a single person along the way. Alliance Master, where are you taking us? The bottom of the battleship is an uninhabited area. It is not a suitable place for interrogation. Zidonglai's eyes slowly narrowed. Long Jueshin coldly snorted. You will know when we get there. The bad feeling in everyone's heart became stronger and stronger. Finally, they reached the deepest part of the battleship. This place was overgrown with weeds. It was a large piece of barren land that no one lived in. They could faintly see a scorched ruin buried in this uninhabited world of weeds. This place had once been the site of a great battle where outsiders had invaded. The battleship's bottom had been blasted open by a strong martial artist. Although the hole had been mended, this place was no longer suitable for humans to live in. Long Jueshin brought them to the center of the ruins. It was a spacious arena, which used to be a martial arts arena. However, on the arena, which had been abandoned for many years, there were bloodstains that had dried up 1 or 2 years ago. Moreover, it was not just 1 or 2 bloodstains. This is the place where the Heavenly Law Alliance executes criminals? Zidonglai was shocked. There was a rumor in the Heavenly Law Alliance that there was a place where criminals who had committed heinous crimes were executed. However, it was rarely used. This was because the criminals who were executed were all personally supervised by the Alliance Master. Apart from Long Jueshin's personal guards and himself, no one else knew about this place. It was just a rumor that had been circulating around. No one expected it to be true. What made Zidonglai even angrier was that Long Jueshin actually wanted to execute them, not interrogate them. It seems like you all know about it. That's good, Long Jueshin said coldly. Bring them up. Lin Yunha's eyes were filled with pain. Alliance Master, do you really want to do this? He still had a glimmer of hope in Long Jueshin, but in the end, he still ended up in such a painful situation. Don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for offending someone you shouldn't have. Long Jueshin's back was facing them. His tone became gentler, but it suddenly became more serious. Execute them. Leave no one alive. The 2 rows of guards separated into 5 designated executioners, 1 for each executioner. At the same time, they took out a broadsword and chopped at the heads of the 5 executioners. Chapter 6:21. However, just as Su Yu was about to make his move, suddenly, 5 muffled sounds could be heard. 5 bloody heads were thrown into the sky, flying over Su Yu and the others' heads. The 5 faces were filled with confusion, shock, and surprise. Then, as their eyes dimmed, they all died. Thump, thump, thump. The 5 heads rolled on the ground, finally landing on the ground. Then, 5 headless corpses were thrown out of the arena. Their bodies were covered with different wounds. This Gang Dalei, who was filled with anger, was stunned. Those 5 heads belonged to the 5 executioners who had been about to chop off their heads. How could they be the ones who were beheaded? All right, you can all rise. Long Jueshin's gentle voice came from behind them. He slowly turned around with an apologetic look on his face. I'm sorry, I have caused you to suffer. As he spoke, he bowed to the 5 of them. The unexpected turn of events stunned them. Alliance Master, what happened to them? Lin Yunha looked at the 5 beheaded guards in surprise. The ones who had attacked them were the other 5 guards. They were all Long Jueshin's trusted guards, so why did they kill themselves? Master Lin, please forgive us for offending you previously. The 5 of them had already been bribed by Fu Songshan, and they had been monitoring my injuries day and night. I had no choice but to kill them as well. Long Jueshin sighed. It was my incompetence that allowed Fu Songshan to secretly gather the Heavenly Law Alliance's powers while I was heavily injured. Even half of my trusted guards were bribed. Hearing this, Su Yu and the others suddenly understood. Fu Songshan is currently working with some elders to attack Housemaster Z and Master Lin. If he succeeds, you will all die. Hence, I took advantage of the situation and used Su Yu's matter to capture all of you first in order to preserve your lives. As he spoke, Long Jueshin took out a red crystal. It was the heavenly law core. After instilling a strand of spiritual energy into it, an extremely secretive formation suddenly appeared on the arena beneath their feet. It was a spatial teleportation formation. Back then, the gap in this place wasn't completely repaired. The First World Senior left a formation here. Only the successive Alliance Masters knew about it. Fu Tsangshan definitely didn't know about this. All of you go up. The teleportation spell can teleport you 100 miles away. As long as you hide your aura, no one will be able to detect you. Long Jueshin walked over and took out a key. He then unlocked their shackles one by one. It was only when he untied Su Yu that he realized that the shackles on Su Yu's hands had been undone. Moreover, the sturdy shackles were twisted like cotton. This scene caused Long Jueshin to be startled. He raised his head and looked at Su Yu's eyes. Can you break the shackles yourself? As Long Jueshin looked at the twisted chain, he sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of strange power was it that it could directly break the celestial binding chains? Even if it was a high-grade divine rank, it couldn't be broken by brute force. So, you were actually pretending to be captured? Long Jueshin came back to his senses and quickly realized that the so-called shackles and cage couldn't trap Su Yu. If he wanted to leave, no one could stop him. Su Yu casually threw away the shackles in his hands and wore a faint smile. You should be thinking that it was fortunate that you had good intentions. Otherwise, the one who died just now would have been you. When Su Yu's killing intent appeared, Long Jueshin revealed the truth in time. If Su Yu had been any slower, Su Yu would have mistakenly killed Long Jueshin. Although Su Yu was just a 2 crystals half-fairy, Long Jueshin could hear the absolute confidence in his words. He couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect that the youngster from back then would have already grown to such an extent. His words were filled with melancholy. I'm really curious. Don't you hate me? At first, Su Yu really thought that Long Jueshin was still brooding over Long Aojue's disappearance. Long Jueshin's pale face revealed a mournful smile. I lost my son and daughter, so I have nothing else to ask for in this life. I only hope that the Heavenly Law Alliance can continue to exist. I also hope that you humans can avoid the continent's calamity in the future. Let's just let bygones be bygones. Long Jueshin, who was all alone, had suffered heavy injuries, lost his children, and lost the Heavenly Law Alliance. He had fallen into the lowest point of his life, and it was also because of this that he seemed to have seen through life. He could even let bygones be bygones. Su Yu's heart trembled slightly. Was this still the powerful and arrogant Heavenly Law Alliance master? He had changed greatly, as if he had been reborn. Alright, all of you can leave now. I will announce to the public that the 5 of you killed 5 guards and took the opportunity to escape. However, I have already successfully killed all of you. These 5 corpses are your corpses. Long Jueshin waved his sleeves, and a flame shot out, burning the 5 corpses to ashes. It was impossible to tell if the corpses were men or women, let alone their faces. This method can be used for a while, but it can't be used forever. The 5 spies died at the same time, yet their corpses are nowhere to be found. Fu Tsangshan will surely become suspicious. Lin Yunhe analyzed the situation. Alliance Master, why don't you leave with us? There was no place for Zi Donglai and Fu Tsangshan in the Heavenly Law Alliance. Since they couldn't stay, Long Jueshin probably wouldn't be able to either. Even his trusted guards had been bribed. It was clear that the situation had reached a critical juncture. There is no need for that. I am a member of the Dragon Clan. I am a descendant of the Heavenly Law Alliance, the Alliance Master of the Heavenly Law Alliance. You can run, but I can only fight to the last moment. You can go ahead. You don't have to worry about me. Long Jueshin waved his hand and turned around. Once they left, Long Jueshin would be the only one left to struggle bitterly. I hope that you can safely avoid the calamity in the outside world. Long Jueshin activated the array with a snap of his fingers. Suyu was moved, and he bowed to Long Jueshin. Senior Long, we will meet again. Gang Daliai's expression was awkward. He bowed deeply as well. Previously, I called you senile. Please forgive me. Zi Donglai and Lin Yunhe's faces were filled with sorrow. They bowed deeply to Long Jueshin and said, Alliance Master, take care. With a flash of light, the 5 of them were teleported away. Following the dissipation of the formation, the arena was empty and there was no one around. Let's go. Long Jueshin sighed. At this moment, the sound of something tearing through the air came from afar. Long Jueshin furrowed his brows. Did something happen? Swish swish, a dense crowd of people flew over from afar. Among the crowd were many elders. It was unknown why they had gathered together and were rushing over. Alliance Master. The leader of the group was Old Shen and a few other senior elders. Swoosh, when the group landed, they hurriedly looked at the arena. When they saw the 5 charred corpses, their expressions changed. Alliance Master, I heard that you secretly executed Housemaster Z and Master Lin? Old Shen asked anxiously. Long Jueshin squinted his eyes. He had just arrived, and the elders had already rushed over. It was too much of a coincidence. His cold gaze swept over the crowd. Fu Songshan was standing alone among the crowd. He was the one behind all of this. However, Long Jueshin did not plan to hide what had happened. Since they were all here, he decided to cover it up according to his plan. It wasn't a secret execution, but rather they had already confessed to colluding with the otherworldly world. To prevent any accidents from happening, they were executed immediately. I was just about to gather everyone to discuss this matter. Since you are already here, you can verify their corpses on the spot. Long Jueshin's expression was calm, but he was secretly on guard. He hoped that no one would notice that he had lost 5 guards. He just needed to temporarily hide it from Fu Songshan and make him believe that Su Yu and the other 4 were already dead. As he thought of this, Long Jueshin glanced at Fu Songshan, hatred flickering in his eyes. If Fu Songshan had not secretly pressured him, he would not have taken such a risky move and killed Su Yu and the other 4. A few elders went forward to examine the corpses, but only charred corpses were left. Their genders couldn't be determined, so how could they identify them? They could only determine from the number of corpses that there were 5 of them. Where are their heads? Fu Songshan asked. The crowd in front of him parted to make a path for him. Seeing that Fu Songshan was suspicious, Long Jueshin was prepared for this. I chopped off their heads while they resisted. Then, they were burned into skeletons. He pointed at the 5 charred skeletons below the arena. When the crowd looked over, their hearts sank. They had actually been killed. Old Shen was infuriated. Alliance Master, how could you be so careless? Long Jueshin had killed them without any witnesses. This is a decision I've made after careful consideration. Are you doubting me? Long Jueshin replied coldly. Deep down, he was filled with hatred. Fu Songshan had forced him into such a state. He would definitely take revenge in the future. However, Long Jueshin realized that Fu Songshan's face had an enigmatic look on it, and he could vaguely tell that he was excited. It was as if his plan had succeeded. Long Jueshin's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Fu Songshan already knew that there was a transportation portal here? Could it be that he had already arranged an ambush 100 miles away to secretly kill Su Yu and the others? As he thought of this, Long Jueshin suddenly felt uneasy. Elders, are you still willing to follow this alliance leader who has lost his mind? Suddenly, Fu Songshan spoke. He was actually targeting Fu Songshan. Ever since he became seriously ill, he has been lacking in energy, and it has been difficult for him to maintain the Heavenly Law Alliance. Following the death of his daughter, his temperament has changed greatly. Housemaster Z and Master Lin, during the battle at the Dragon Abyss of the 9 Underworlds, how many contributions did they make to the Heavenly Law Alliance? However, Alliance Master Long killed them just like that? He was careless and decisive, and he did not care about his own life. He acted arbitrarily and did not listen to the elders' opinions. Now, he even secretly executed them without distinguishing between right and wrong. Elders, may I ask you if Long Jueshin still has the right to be the Alliance Master? Fu Tsongshan raised his arm and shouted. This unexpected scene made Long Jueshin feel as if he was stepping on thin air. It turned out that Fu Tsongshan's real target was not Housemaster Zi and Lin Yunhe, but him. They had purposely suppressed Zi Donglai and secretly revealed that they wanted to get rid of the two of them. This was done on purpose for Long Jueshin to see. If Long Jueshin had ignored them, they would have successfully gotten rid of the two of them. However, if Long Jueshin had attacked them, he would have been pressured by Fu Tsongshan, so he would have used a similar method to secretly release the two of them. However, this was exactly what they wanted. They would then blame Long Jueshin and accuse him of acting arbitrarily, thus removing him from his position as the Alliance Master. Chapter 622. Long Jueshin's conscience was exactly what he wanted. The crowd became silent. Was Fu Tsongshan trying to convince everyone to dismiss Long Jueshin? The people led by Old Chen were stunned, and their expressions were complicated. To be fair, Long Jueshin was not suitable to be the alliance leader. However, he had led them for so many years, and their relationship was not shallow. For a moment, most of the elders were hesitant. I agree to dismiss Long Jueshin. The position of alliance leader should be given to someone more capable. Old Zhang was the one who spoke. For some reason, he was not beside Fu Hongxue. I agree. I also agree that Long Jueshin is not suitable to be the alliance leader. The elders that Fu Tsongshan had gathered took advantage of the situation to start a coup that he had been planning for a long time. A 1,000-mile dike can be destroyed by an ant's nest. Once the hole is opened, it will inevitably become a flood that breaks the dike. I also agree. Some of the neutral elders gradually made up their minds. No matter who the alliance leader was, Long Jueshin was not suitable. No one knew who would be the next to be secretly executed. One stone caused 1,000 ripples, one after another. In the blink of an eye, most of the people agreed to dismiss Long Jueshin. Finally, only Old Chen and the other elders were left. However, the situation was already over. Old Chen looked at Long Jueshin and sighed. Alliance leader, you should rest for a while. It will be good for you and everyone else. The deaths of Housemaster Zi, Lin Yunhe, and the others have really disappointed them. Long Jueshin's heart was filled with anger. He forcefully suppressed the blood in his throat as he lamented in his heart. So, this was Fu Tsongshan's plot. A coup to seize the throne. After dismissing him, who would be the most suitable person to be the next alliance leader? He had thought that he had successfully deceived Fu Tsongshan and saved Housemaster Zi and the others. However, he had actually fallen into his trap. Alliance leader, for everyone's safety, please accept our supervision for the time being. Old Zhang looked calm, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. Their plan had finally succeeded. After Long Jueshin was dismissed from the position of alliance leader, all that was left was to wait for Fu Tsongshan to take over. They had followed Fu Tsongshan's elders, and their statuses had skyrocketed. In the future, they would be able to enjoy endless resources and glory. After all, Long Jueshin was a peak 3 Crystal Realm expert. Now that his mental state had gone awry, they couldn't just leave him alone. He needed to be monitored. Long Jueshin did not resist, as he was severely injured and his battle prowess was no longer what it used to be. Even if his combat power was still the same, if he dared to make a move now, it would only make the accusation that he had lost his mind even more. At that time, Fu Tsongshan would take the opportunity to severely injure him again. If Fu Tsongshan made up his mind, he might even kill him on the spot to prevent any future troubles. Since that's the case, Alliance Master, hand over the heavenly Tao heart. It's no longer suitable for you to keep it. Old man Zhang stretched out his hand. I think it's better to hand this item over to the strongest expert here for now, just in case something happens. The strongest was naturally Fu Tsangshan. No one had any objections to this, as this item was related to the safety of the Heavenly Law Alliance's battleships. Hence, it was most appropriate to hand it over to the strongest person. Fu Tsangshan's face was filled with fear. Since everyone thinks so highly of me, I will use my life to defend the Heavenly Tao. If it exists, people will exist. If it dies, people will die. His resolute words won everyone's approval. Long Juexin hesitated for a moment before handing over the Heavenly Law Core. This item had always been controlled by the Alliance leader. Now that Fu Tsangshan was in control of it, he was practically the Alliance leader. In an instant, Long Juexin lost everything. The shocking change in the Heavenly Law Alliance was completed in such a calm and peaceful manner, even though it was a conspiracy. Most of the Heavenly Tao Union's members did not know that the Heavenly Tao Union had quietly changed hands. In Long Juexin's room, his 5 trusted guards had already been transferred away. The guards at the door were Fu Tsangshan's trusted aides. Moreover, his room had been remodeled, and special materials from the celestial binding lock had been used to seal it. Thus, Long Juexin would not be able to escape. Although it was called supervision, the Heavenly Law Alliance Master had already been reduced to a prisoner. How is it? Does the Alliance Master feel comfortable? Fu Tsangshan stood at the entrance with his hands clasped behind his back. He was in high spirits and had a smile on his face. He did not hide his ridicule at all. You never expected that the Alliance Master of the Heavenly Law Alliance would end up like this, right? This place was filled with his people, so he wasn't worried that his actions would be exposed. On the other side of the door, Long Juexin's back was facing him. The corners of his mouth were full of bitterness. He also had this day. Since things had already reached such a stage, it was useless for him to resist. The only thing that he could be happy about was that, although he was in trouble, Housemaster Z, Lin Yunhe, and Su Yu, the 3 outstanding juniors, had managed to escape. Thus, it could be said that he had done a good deed before his death. I must say that the Alliance Master's plan was quite thorough, and your acting was quite good. After all, you killed my people and let Housemaster Z and the other 4 escape. Fu Tsangshan suddenly laughed strangely. Hearing this, Long Juexin's body stiffened. He turned his head abruptly and asked, "What did you say? I don't understand." Haha, did you really think that you could let the 5 of them escape? Did you really think that I didn't know about that spell? It seems like you only managed to find 5 traitors among the 10 guards. There was still one more that you didn't manage to find. Fu Tsangshan laughed coldly as he spoke. Even one of his trusted aides had been bribed. It was no wonder that Fu Tsangshan and the others had rushed over right after he had arrived at the execution ground. In other words, Fu Tsangshan had already known about all of his plans. He had even known about Su Yu and the others' whereabouts. What awaited Housemaster Z and the others was not freedom, but an ambush. It was obvious that Fu Tsangshan would not let them live. Instead, he would let them die for real. Long Juexin was at a loss for words. He looked up at the sky and sighed. I have let you all down. In the end, all of his plans had been for naught. Not only had he lost his life, but he had also not been able to save anyone. 100 miles away from the battleship, space energy fluctuated on the top of a mountain, and 5 figures fell out of it. Looking at the vast scene before them, as well as the humongous battleship not far away, Housemaster Z and the others felt as if they had seen the light of day again. The only pity is that the Alliance Master is still inside. I hope that he can hold on. Housemaster Z sighed softly. Lin Yunhe could only sigh and change the topic. Let's leave immediately. Let's not waste Alliance Master Long's good intentions. However, Su Yu stood at his original position and did not move. Instead, he turned his head and said to Gang Dalei, bring them away first. I will go back for a while. What? Go back? Gang Dalei thought that he had misheard. Zidonglai was shocked. It was not easy for you to escape from the Heavenly Law Alliance. Why did you walk right into their trap? Su Yu looked at the Heavenly Law Alliance's battleship with a cold glint in his eyes. Now that I have nothing to worry about, I should take care of some people. Lin Yunhe had a strange look in his eyes as he asked solemnly, Su Yu, can you tell me how powerful you are now? Gang Dalei and the others also felt that something was amiss. It was as if Su Yu did not care about the Heavenly Law Alliance at all. Su Yu shrugged his shoulders. I do not know either. I will only know if I try. Without a real battle with a fairy, it was hard to say how powerful he was. However, if I want to leave the Heavenly Law Alliance alone, no one should be able to stop me, not even the First World Senior. Su Yu was very confident about this. Even Xing Guo, who was at the Divine Master level, had to put in a lot of effort to capture him. Hiss! Zidonglai secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. What arrogance! What kind of place was the Heavenly Law Alliance? It was second only to the Empire of Darkness, and was far above the 8 great ancient clans. Only an expert like Senior Jiu would dare to talk about freedom in such a faction. Lin Yunhe was also quite surprised. After training in the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion, you have completely changed. Gang Dalei was dumbfounded. From his interactions with Su Yu, he knew that he did not like to brag. Instead, he was very humble. Saying what he had just said was already a very conservative statement. Zi Yunxiang's beautiful eyes were filled with a strange light. Su Yu was even more powerful than she had imagined. Without a doubt, the reason why Su Yu was so restrained was because of their existence. All right, we will wait for you 10,000 miles in this direction. Zidonglai looked at Su Yu deeply and sighed in his heart. Back in the cage, he had not gotten Su Yu's promise to marry Zi Yunxiang. Swoosh, however, at that moment, a black cloud flew over from 50 miles away. It was not a cloud, but more than 10 Two Crystals half-fairy realm experts. They were the strongest team in the Heavenly Law Alliance. The leader was a youth in a luxurious robe. His face was filled with anxiety. When he noticed Su Yu and the others, his expression relaxed and he laughed loudly. So, you are here. We have been looking for you for a long time. Even though they had set up an ambush in advance, the transportation portal had teleported them randomly, so they could not confirm their location. They could only search within 100 miles of the battleship. Now that they had found Su Yu and the others, they could finally relax. Swoosh! The Two Crystals half-fairy realm experts were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they had surrounded them. Fu Hongxue, it's you. How did you know our location? Zi Yunxiang was extremely shocked. The leader of the group was Fu Hongxue, who had set up an ambush in advance. You thought that Long Juexin's plan was flawless, but you did not know that you had fallen into our trap. Fu Hongxue laughed coldly. Lin Yunhe's heart tightened. What do you mean? How is Alliance Master Long now? Fu Hongxue did not mind if they knew. He laughed. Do you still need to ask? He acted arbitrarily and secretly killed all of you who had contributed greatly to the Alliance. Of course, he was impeached by all the elders and removed from his position as the Alliance Master. Now it should be over. As for whether he is dead or alive, we do not know. What? Zidonglai and Lin Yunhe were both shocked. Long Juexin had been removed from his position, and they did not know whether he was dead or alive. They could not accept such shocking news. Since you have told us all of this, it means that you do not intend to let us go back, right? Zi Yunxiang was extremely intelligent, so she realized that they were in a bad situation. Fu Hongxue's greedy eyes shone with a fiery light. Of course. All of you must die. Yunxiang, for my grandfather's great plan, I have no choice but to kill you. But, don't worry, before you die, I will treat you well. Chapter 6:23. The two crystals half-fairy realm experts behind him moved upon hearing the news. Su Yu's eyes were calm, and it was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. At this critical moment, he said leisurely, "Fine. I went back to look for you, but since you are here, I will settle this here." Su Yu couldn't convince himself to tolerate the fact that he had set his sights on Xia Jingyu and had almost succeeded. Su Yu only had one way to deal with such a person, and that was to kill him. "Oh? I almost forgot about you. You are just an idiot. What's so good about you? Yun Xiang is willing to be your concubine." Fu Hongxue looked at him coldly, and his lips curled into a sinister smile. "I have changed my mind. You will be the last one to be killed. I will let you see how I am going to toy with this bitch to death. I will also let this bitch see how useless the man she likes is." "Attack!" Fu Hongxue shouted, waving his sleeves as he commanded dozens of people. The two crystals half-fairy realm experts moved upon hearing the news, turning into afterimages as they charged forward. Gang Daliai's pupils shrank. "Housemaster Z, Master Lin, and Miss Z, you should all escape separately." With a furious roar, Gang Daliai's body emitted a barbaric aura as he thrust his fists forward like a flood dragon, sending a two crystals half-fairy realm expert flying away. "Xiang you go first. Don't worry about me," Zi Donglai shouted loudly. His heart had sunk to the bottom, as he had just escaped with great difficulty, only to be ambushed and forced into an even more dangerous situation. His daughter would have to face a fate worse than death. "Humph, if you can escape from the hands of the Heavenly Law Union's many pillars, won't you be able to climb trees?" With a cold smile, Fu Hongxue waved his hand. The three half-fairies understood his intention and flew toward the three of them. Two of them attacked Gang Daliai and Housemaster Z with killing intent, intending to kill them with one strike. The last one was responsible for capturing Zi Yunxiang alive. "Even if I die, don't even think about touching me." Zi Yunxiang knew that she would not be able to escape death, so she became more determined. She took out a green dagger and placed it against her throat. As long as the enemy approached her, she would immediately kill herself. "You want to threaten me with this? Ridiculous." Fu Hongxue laughed sinisterly. "I have been on guard against you. Xiang be careful." Suddenly, Zi Donglai roared in anger. They could see a transparent figure floating behind Zi Yunxiang. It was a two crystals half-fairy realm expert. He had taken advantage of the fact that they were distracted by the three half-fairies, and he had used a magical treasure to conceal himself. Unfortunately, it was already too late. The other party's finger pressed against one of the meridians on Zi Yunxiang's back. Zi Yunxiang's entire body went limp, and the dagger in her hand fell to the ground. The transparent figure behind him swept through the air and grabbed the subdued Zi Yunxiang. With a light tap of his feet, he flew back to Hong Shue's side like a swallow. "Young master, I've caught him." The guard revealed a fawning expression. However, what was imprinted in his eyes was not Fu Hongxue's joy. Fu Hongxue stared at him. First, he was at a loss, then he was shocked, and then he was terrified. The guard was startled and turned his head to look. Only then did he realize that his head could not move. But in the eyes of outsiders, it wasn't that he couldn't turn his head, but that he didn't have a neck, so how could he turn his head? Everything below his neck was gone. He had been chopped off with a single slash. His body had already fallen to the ground, and only his head was still in the air. He didn't realize that he was still in the air, so he flew to Fu Hongxue's side to report on his mission. What kind of sharp divine artifact could separate a person's head from his body without suffering any pain? What kind of terrifying movement technique could be so precise, as fast as lightning, and so neatly behead a two crystals half-fairy realm expert who was flying at high speed? The whole place was deathly silent. Even the two crystals half-fairy realm experts, who were attacking Gang Dalei and Zidonglai, stopped at the same time. Their scalps went numb as they looked at the scene in front of them. The head, which was floating in the air, lost its momentum and fell into Fu Hongshue's bosom. As it flipped over, he finally understood what had happened. He saw a silver-haired youth holding Zi Yunxiang, who had been snatched away from him, in one hand, and a small golden sword was circling in his other hand. This was the last scene he would ever see in his life. "Are you all right?" Su Yu transferred a wisp of vital energy into Zi Yunxiang's body and opened up her blocked meridians. She regained her mobility. However, Zi Yunxiang was still in his embrace, staring at Su Yu without blinking. Her beautiful eyes were as round as they could be. Just how powerful is Su Yu? Similarly, Gang Dalei and the others were also shocked to the extreme. Not only did he kill a two crystals half-fairy realm expert in an instant, but none of them clearly saw how he had attacked and how he had snatched Zi Yunxiang back. Gulp! One of the two crystals half-fairy realm experts swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The way they looked at Su Yu was like how ordinary people would look at a man-eating monster. When Fu Hongxue came back to his senses from his fright, he hurriedly threw away the guard's head, which was still in his bosom. He then turned around and tried to escape. "Kill him! Let's attack him together!" As for Fu Hongxue, he chose to escape. After the group of two crystals half-fairy realm experts struggled for a while, a slightly older man, who seemed to be the leader, shouted, "Attack him together!" His voice, as well as his life, stopped when he heard the word attack. This was because a small golden sword had suddenly pierced through his throat. As his blood splashed out, his eyes darkened, and his body fell like a stone. When he fell on the ground, a terrifying sound echoed out. "Ah, run!" The two crystals half-fairy realm experts couldn't suppress the fright in their hearts any longer. They all screamed and ran away in panic like rats. They were completely different from their previous imposing and murderous appearance. Splutter! The one who had first shouted to run away didn't escape, because as soon as he finished speaking, a golden light flickered on his neck, and his head flew into the sky. This bloody scene completely frightened the group of two crystals half-fairy realm experts. "Did I allow you to leave?" An indifferent voice came out of Su Yu's mouth. His tone was calm, and it didn't seem dignified at all. However, in their ears, his words were even more dignified and frightening than the Alliance Master's. "Without my order, if you move even a single step, you will die." Su Yu put Zi Yunxiang down, then calmly ordered them without even turning his head. The two crystals half-fairy realm experts didn't move at all. 3 golden lights flashed in succession, and 3 people died in succession. The terrifying golden light and the strange killing technique terrified them. Cold sweat dripped down from their foreheads, but none of them dared to wipe it off. This was because they didn't know whether their heads would fall to the ground the moment they wiped off their sweat. "All right, everything is fine now." Su Yu put Zi Yunxiang down, then looked at Zidonglai and the other 2 people with a worried expression. "Are these the Heavenly Law Alliance's so-called strongest guards?" Su Yu now understood why the Zhenlong continent's army had suffered such a disastrous defeat. It wasn't just because their fighting prowess was low, but more importantly, they didn't have any fighting spirit at all. He had only killed 3 people, yet with a single order, they didn't dare to move at all. In fact, if they had scattered and escaped, it would have been difficult for Su Yu to kill them all by himself. However, they didn't even have the guts to take such a risk. Su Yu could almost imagine how one-sided the battle at the Dragon Abyss of the 9 underworlds would be. When Lin Yunhe came back to his senses, he sucked in a breath of cold air. After a while, he sympathized with the guards and said, "You are making things too difficult for them. The Heavenly Law Alliance has never participated in the continent's battles, so they lack actual combat experience. Who wouldn't be afraid of killing one person with a single sword strike?" If Lin Yunhe and Zidonglai were in Su Yu's shoes, they wouldn't think that they would be able to perform so well in front of a terrifying existence like Suyu. Gang Dalei sucked in a breath of cold air. I felt like I was a monster, but after seeing you, I realized that I'm just a human. You are the real monster. Back then, when they were at the same starting line, Suyu's power was still weaker than Gang Dalei's. However, after they went to the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion together, Gang Dalei had to look up to Suyu. When Suyu heard Gang Dalei call him a monster, the corners of Suyu's mouth twitched. Alright, I will go to the Heavenly Law Alliance. I originally wanted to go there for Fu Hongxue, but since Alliance Master Long is in trouble, I might as well help him. Suyu had intentionally allowed Fu Hongxue to escape. Zi Yunxiang's admiration for Suyu had reached an unprecedented level. She didn't even dare to look at Suyu directly, as he was too dazzling. It was as if he was a god, while she was just a mortal on the ground. The great disparity between them made Zi Yunxiang feel great pressure, but it also made her admire Suyu even more. The youth, who had once been protected by her, had unexpectedly grown into a godlike existence. I will go with you. Since these guards have been subdued, you don't have to worry about us being threatened, right? Zi Yunxiang came back to her senses, her face slightly flushed. However, Suyu shook his head resolutely. Not yet. I was never worried about these guards, but the First World Senior, who has yet to appear. If Fu Tsangshan controls the First World Senior, I will be entangled, and you will become my weakness. Hearing this, Zi Donglai's expression relaxed slightly. You don't have to worry about this. The First World Senior's corpse will only appear when it senses the power of a fairy. No one can control it at any other time. Lin Yunhe nodded slightly. Indeed, you don't have to worry about this. This is what I am most worried about. Suyu laughed bitterly. Although he was a 2 crystals half-fairy, he could still display the power of a grade 1 fairy. Alarming the First World Senior's corpse would be troublesome. After all, Suyu had only seen him fight once, so he couldn't determine his power. The 4 of them understood what he meant, and they all froze on the spot. What you mean is that you have the battle power of the fairy realm. Zi Yunxiang stuttered, her words incoherent. The shock that Suyu had given her was getting stronger and stronger. It was like an earthquake, and before the previous shock had even subsided, another greater shock had struck her. At this moment, even she couldn't help but call him a monster. If they knew that the number of fairies who had died at Suyu's hands could be counted on one's fingers, it was unknown how they would feel. So, I can go in alone. You don't have to follow me, Suyu said. He paused for a moment, then said, Please wait for a moment. Chapter 624. I'll give you 2 choices. First, die. Second, obey me. Suyu's tone was not harsh, but in the ears of the 16th guard, it was like a clap of thunder. Senior, I am willing to follow you from now on. A slightly quick-witted short guard suddenly had an idea. While the others were still panicking, he took the risk to go forward alone and kowtow. When one person did so, the others followed suit. After all, their lives were their own. No one was willing to die here for no reason. All right, release your consciousness of resistance. I will plant a restriction in your souls to ensure that you will not betray me again. They had obeyed Long Juexin yesterday, Fu Tsangshan today, and Suyu tomorrow. Who could guarantee that they wouldn't one day obey someone else and betray Suyu? The only way to control it was to use the best method. This. Immediately, many of the guards' expressions changed, and they hesitated. Senior, I'm willing. It was the short and quick-witted guard again. He stopped resisting without hesitation. Suyu couldn't help but take another look at him. You're quite smart. What's your name? Junior Luo Xiong is fortunate enough to be able to follow Senior. I am willing to recognize Senior as my master. Even Suyu had to admit that this lad was much more quick-witted than ordinary people. While the others were still panicking, he had already seen an opportunity and had taken the initiative to surrender. He was bold yet meticulous, and he was indeed not bad. Su Yu nodded calmly, then condensed a talisman that was a fusion of thunderbolts and souls in his palm, then sent it into Luo Xiong's soul. From start to finish, Luo Xiong's expression did not change. He was extremely calm, and there was even a trace of anticipation. With him taking the lead, even if the people who came later were unwilling, they could only lower their heads and obediently let Su Yu plant the Great Thunder Heart technique in them. With a single thought, Su Yu could control their life and death. Luo Xiong, from now on, you will be their captain, and you will lead them, Su Yu said. Luo Xiong was happy. Sure enough, it was good to be the first to surrender. In the future, when they followed this unfathomable young man, the one who would benefit the most would be him. Hearing this, the other 15 guards exchanged glances and stared at Luo Xiong's back with slight dissatisfaction. How sharp was Su Yu? If you have anything to say, you'd better say it now. In the future, if there are rumors of internal strife, don't blame me for being ruthless. Su Yu's eyes turned cold. Hearing this, the 15 guards kept quiet out of fear and lowered their heads, not daring to look Su Yu in the eye. One of them, who had a tall stature, had a more vigorous aura than the others. This was due to the pure spiritual energy in his body. It seemed like it was only a matter of time before he advanced to the 3 crystals half-fairy realm. Master, I am Li Qing, the vice-captain of the Annihilation Team. I have experience in leading teams, so I might be better at leading teams. To put it bluntly, it was just that they could not bear to see Luo Xiong gain power. Before this, Luo Xiong could only be considered a mediocre member of the group. He had never been put in an important position. Now that he had flattered the other party and obtained the position of captain, no one was willing to accept him. Deputy captain? Well, then you can continue being the deputy captain, Su Yu said calmly. Li Qing was a little unconvinced. He gathered his courage and said, Master, I'm stronger than Luo Xiong. Luo Xiong, who was kneeling on the ground, could not help feeling awkward. Indeed, it was difficult for him to convince everyone with his strength. Yes, it won't be long now. Su Yu took a golden fruit from the 9-jade spiritual pearl and threw it into Luo Xiong's bosom. Eat it when you have time to purify your spiritual energy. It's good for you, Su Yu said calmly. Luo Xiong was caught off guard, and he hurriedly caught the golden fruit. He stared at the fruit in his palm, not knowing what it was. While Su Yu was smiling bitterly, Li Qing, who was behind him, sucked in a breath of cold air. He could not help but exclaim in surprise, "The Bodhi divine fruit? This holy fruit was the best holy item for purifying spiritual energy in the Zhenlong continent. Many people yearned for this purifying holy fruit. It was rumored that when one consumed it for the first time, the spiritual crystal would be purified to its peak. Consuming one was equivalent to having a 100% chance of condensing a vital energy crystal. However, this fruit became extinct thousands of years ago, and it has never appeared on the continent again. The Bodhi divine fruit? The people of the Jiuzhou continent knew it as the incredible feather spiritual pomegranate. After some time, the unripe fruits on the incredible feather spiritual pomegranate had already ripened. This is the Bodhi divine fruit? Luo Xiong's lips were trembling, and his palms were trembling. The legendary Bodhi divine fruit of the continent had only been mentioned in ancient books. He had never thought that he would actually be able to obtain one. If he consumed it, it would only be a matter of time before he broke through to the 3 crystals half-fairy realm. In fact, if he successfully crystallized it, breaking through to the fairy realm would be just around the corner. Master, thank you for your kindness. I will go through fire and water without hesitation. Luo Xiong was overjoyed. Under the reddened eyes of his colleagues, he happily put it away. Su Yu took in everyone's expressions, then casually took out another incredible feather spiritual pomegranate. The Bodhi divine fruit? There are many more. If you want them, it depends on your actions. There are more. There are more. Oh my God, a second Bodhi divine fruit! Thump! A series of kowtows could be heard. Master, we are willing to follow you to our deaths. The rest of the people cursed Su Yu's cunning as they bowed. The Heavenly Law Alliance would never provide them with this divine fruit. Only Su Yu, the mysterious and dazzling young man, remained. Li Cheng knelt in the crowd, staring at Luo Xiong's back as he gritted his teeth. Su Yu nodded his head in satisfaction. This was the effect he had wanted. Brother Su, do you still lack subordinates? Let me help you. Gang Dalei rubbed his hands, smiling as he walked over. His eyes never left the incredible feather spiritual pomegranate. Su Yu laughed, tossing it over. Take it. I don't believe that you are lacking in treasures. Su Yu knew that Gang Dalei had obtained a drop of real dragon's blood from an unknown relic. It was still in Su Yu's space ring. He probably had many treasures on him. Gang Dalei knew what Su Yu meant. He sighed with a dark expression. Do you think that I am like you, roaming around and searching for treasures? In order to help my old man find the treasure to exchange for the Thunder Herb, I squatted in that desolate place for a month and a half. I did not even manage to find a single strand of hair. I am not even as good as Qin Yushan, who stayed at the 7th level to pick herbs. Hearing this, Su Yu smacked his lips. Gang Dalei was quite pitiful. Where is mine? A soft and weak voice could be heard. A snow-white hand stretched out in front of Su Yu. Zi Yunxiang pretended to be coquettish, but when the time came, she was abnormally shy. Her coquettish behavior did not work, and she blushed. Her bashful behavior made it even more interesting. Su Yu smiled. Yes, of course I can't do without you. He took out a fruit and stuffed it into her palm. Seeing her surprised expression, Su Yu felt satisfied. Then, Su Yu gave Zi Donglai and Lin Yunhe one each. Seniors, after you consume it, it will be of some use to you. There is no need to reject it. The two of them were too old, and their ability to absorb the medicinal power of such a purified fruit was far inferior to that of the younger generation. It could be said that giving it to them was a complete waste. Seeing Su Yu extravagantly toss out 3, the guards' hearts bled. It was as if Su Yu was cutting their flesh. They were extremely anxious. Who knew how many more Su Yu had? If he tossed them all out before they had accomplished anything, who would they cry to? Don't call me seniors anymore. On the path of martial arts, those who have reached the peak are the most important. Don't make fun of us. Lin Yunhe smiled bitterly. However, I will accept this fruit. Although it is of no use to me, I can give it to a junior who is pleasing to the eye. Gang Dalei's nose twitched. Master Lin, do you like me? Lin Yunhe was amused. You little brat. You already have one, yet you are still thinking about me. Gang Dalei laughed and replied, You can't have too many treasures. All right, let's not waste any more time. I need to return to the Heavenly Law Alliance. Su Yu instructed. Luo Xiong, take 5 people with you and escort them to this place to meet up with the Undead Phoenix Master. This is a communication jade pendant. I will contact you later. As he spoke, Su Yu threw a communication jade pendant to him. The Undead Phoenix Master? Zi Donglai and the others were all surprised. Why was the Undead Phoenix Master outside the warship? After thinking about it carefully, they understood. Su Yu had asked the Undead Phoenix Master to move Elder Jiu and Lord Yu away in advance. If that was the case, Su Yu had already detected that something big was about to happen, and he was preparing for it in advance? Zi Donglai's heart shuddered. What a meticulous plan! He suddenly felt sorry for Fu Songshan. It was truly a tragedy to go against such a terrifying person. Just the thought of becoming enemies with someone like Su Yu made him shudder with fear. Li Cheng, the 10 of you will follow me back to the Heavenly Law Alliance, Su Yu instructed. Li Cheng was overjoyed when he heard this. This was the time to make a contribution. On the other hand, Luo Xiong was slightly worried. He was worried that Li Cheng would steal the limelight. Protecting them is more important than any contribution. They are the most important people to me, Su Yu said without turning his head. It seemed like he could see through Luo Xiong's thoughts. After he spoke, he led the 10 great guards and flew back to the Heavenly Law Alliance. When they landed at the bottom of the Heavenly Law Alliance, Li Qing said apologetically, "Master, he asked me to contact and activate the formation." Su Yu squinted his eyes as he looked at the bottom of the warship. "Master, the Heavenly Law Alliance's warship is extremely sturdy, as it is a legendary semi-manufactured spiritual artifact. Only by activating the formation from within can one enter it. External forces cannot break through it," Li Qing, who was eager to make a contribution, explained. Su Yu clasped his hands behind his back and said meaningfully, "Is that so? I feel that it is better to take an unconventional path." Sizzle. Li Qing felt his vision blur, as if a red object had appeared in Su Yu's palm. Immediately after, a ball of terrifying raging flames turned into a tongue of flame, which shot up 1,000 feet into the sky. The area where the formation was located had been directly burned through. Many miserable cries could be heard coming from the hidden places in the surroundings. There were many soldiers lying in ambush at the transportation portal. Their numbers were so great that it was not an ordinary defense. Since such a long time had passed, they must have already made preparations. Once they entered the transportation portal, they would kill them without mercy. Li Qing broke out in a cold sweat. If they had really passed through the transportation portal just now, wouldn't they have been killed by the swords? However, what shocked him even more was that Su Yu had actually managed to break through the Heavenly Law Alliance's warship. Is this the fighting power of the fairy realm? Just what was the limit of this excessively valiant youth's strength?